13, 14, that's enough. Okay, and now? I am ready. Okay. Aloha, everyone. Welcome to the January meeting of the Waikiki Neighborhood Board. I hope all of you had a great holiday season. Tonight, a couple things before we start. I'd like to send the best wishes of the Waikiki Neighborhood Board to our 2 Honolulu police officers who were shot on duty last week. I understand they're in one form or another of recovery, and wish them all the best. Of course, also families involved. Tonight we have a new neighborhood assistant, Mr. Anson Wong. Welcome, Anson. Yay. I think he's a volunteer. We also have Dylan Buck with us, and Robert Winslow is someplace in the neighborhood. First on our agenda is Honolulu Police Department, Honolulu Fire Department, excuse me.
Okay, well, good evening, everybody. Happy New Year, like you said. Welcome to a new year. My name is Lee Marquez. I'm the captain here at the Waikiki Fire Station on Ladder 7. I'm here to give you our statistics, which is now seemingly old news since it's for 2023. But for December 2023, I'm going to read our statistics for the month. Here in Waikiki, we accumulated. We fortunately didn't have any structure fires, brush fires, although we did have 2 nuisance fires, and those include rubbish fires that are normally outside of containers, or also auto fires considered a nuisance fire. 15 activated alarms. As far as medical type related emergencies, we've had 192. Motor vehicle collisions involving pedestrians, there were 2. Motor vehicle collisions or crashes, there were 5 in the Waikiki area. We had no mountain rescues. There were 2 ocean rescues off of Waikiki and 4 hazardous materials incidents type related calls. What I'm also very fortunate to bring you this evening is our fire safety tip, which is given to us by our community relations office. So let me share that with you. This month's fire safety tip talks about lithium-ion batteries. So lithium-ion batteries supply power to many kinds of devices, including smartphones, laptops, as we see now, scooters, bikes, cigarettes, smoke alarms, just about everything. It's almost impossible to find a bike that doesn't have a battery on it now. They also recommend always follow the manufacturer's instructions to only use the battery and the charging cord designed for the device. Replace them when they're damaged, frayed, or sticky to the touch. Charge the devices in a cool area with good ventilation. Do not keep charging the device after it's fully charged. Scooters and bikes should only be charged outdoors. Smaller devices should be placed on a hard, non-flammable surface, and never under your pillow or on a couch or somewhere where it'll generate heat. And also store them away from anything that can catch fire. That is our fire safety tip for the month. All right.
Any questions for the fire department? Yes, go ahead.
Happy New Year.
Hey, how are you?
So last year, I believe it was our state representative, he's not going to make it tonight, but he handled a bill that passed through the legislature, governor signed, making it discretionary for ambulances and fire trucks to use their sirens in instances where they felt it was appropriate not to use it. Has your department recognized that law, implemented any procedures or policies, or done anything in light of that law passing?
Yeah, no, I'm aware of that bill. I have come across it. Our department has not addressed that as being something that we're going to practice at this moment. At this time, it's hasn't come down to my level. So far, it's still, as the bill hasn't worked its way down, and I have come across it. I'm somewhat familiar with it. I can't say I know the fine print about it, but I do know they use the word discretionary in there. So let's see. I'm not really sure how that's going to pan out.
So that's an issue that I will keep up, as a member of this neighborhood board, because as I've said in many past meetings, I think the loudest possible noise that I've heard in my 10 years in Waikiki is from the fire department.
Sure.
I'd really appreciate it if you could continue to look into that and figure out what you're going to do in light of that law.
Like I said, I'm here at the level here with you in the community. So as things,
Well, hopefully you'll be back next month. And so
I will see you throughout the year for
yeah,
sure.
okay, great.
Yeah, I will be back.
Other
Anyone else?
questions for the fire department?
Yes.
Actually, this is just real quick. So mountain rescues. Has Waikiki ever had a mountain rescue?
Excuse me?
Mountain rescues.
Yes.
Has Waikiki ever had a mountain rescue?
Well, I tell you what, it's on our list because generally these are the bullet points that you use throughout all the neighborhood boards around the island. Now, our closest mountain, we do respond to Diamond Head, but Diamond Head is actually considered outside of our area for Waikiki. So that would fall into the Kaimuki, St. Louis sites. But yes, we do as a station, we do have had to respond to Waikiki.
Any other questions for the fire department? And on that lithium battery, there was one that caught fire on an airplane the other day. So it is a very dangerous item. Anyway, I see no more hands, nothing. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Happy New Year. Have a good night.
Next, we have the Honolulu Police Department.
Hey, good evening. I'm Lieutenant Komoda. I'm going to be going over the stats for the previous month of December. So for December, we had 1 robbery, 8 burglaries, 127 theft cases, 15 unlawful entry to motor vehicle, 34 assault cases, 5 sex crimes, 7 citations involving bikes and skateboards on sidewalk. As far as speeding, we had 23 citations, 1,693 parking. Loud muffler, we had 9 citations, park closures, 41, and total calls for service for the month of December was 4,417.
Do we have questions for Honolulu Police Department? Daniel again.
So I'd like to ask you guys the same question. Hello, Happy New Year.
Hey, Happy New Year.
I'd like to ask you guys the same question, whether you've taken any recognition at the Honolulu Police Department in light of the law that makes use of sirens discretionary.
I'm sorry,
So,
question again?
So the law last year was amended by a bill that I believe our state representative Adrian Tam handled, and it made the use of emergency sirens discretionary when responding. If the officer or fire department felt it was appropriate to not use sanctions. Have you guys recognized that law at all, allowing you discretion to use your sirens?
Well, like the fire department said, I believe it's still in the legislation.
No, it's law.
Well, we've never really encountered that. It's always basically kind of been discretionary. But I mean, it's like a double-edged sword, right? If we go at lights and siren and say we don't have our siren and somebody doesn't see us, they're going to say, why didn't you have your siren on, right? Versus we do have it on and it's more precautionary for cars and pedestrians and whatnot.
I understand the difficulty of the discretion required, but I'm wondering if there's any effort to use that discretion. But I'd appreciate it if you guys could address this moving forward. And loud mufflers 9, it's better than 0. Thank you.
Other questions for board members? Just a second, John. Okay, go ahead. Use a microphone.
Hi, everybody. John Dutzman, Um, A year ago, this board was going wacky because of some shooting on Lures. They wanted to call out the National Guard or whatever. Well, 2023, we were murder-free. First time in at least 3 years, maybe 4 or 5 years. There were no murders in Waikiki. Drug and liquor offenses down 60%, aggravated assault, the most severe form of assault, down almost 40%, robbery down 30%, burglary down 30%, criminal property damage down 30%, auto theft down 30%. People being sentenced for misdemeanors, 10 days or more, is up 35% since the last round of Safe and Sound, and felonies filed is up 73%. Things are getting better here. We have 70 less troublemakers here than there were this time last year. We've achieved all this through excellent work by the police department, the prosecutors department, leadership under Mayor Blangiardi, who's preached a zero tolerance policy, our representatives, our senator. We're all on the same page here. We achieved this through being tough against the troublemakers, making this uncomfortable for troublemakers and avoiding the legislative path of trying to fix everybody. This is what works. Consequences for bad behavior. Thank you.
Catherine?
Hello. In view of what you just heard and what we just heard, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and I just had a related question. Wasn't there, I believe there was a ACLU lawsuit for homeless encampments or something, and what was the result? Does anybody know? It's a peripheral issue, but I'm curious.
Yeah, the judge denied the preliminary injunction. So there was an article about that. That doesn't prevent the case from going forward to trial, but the judge did deny the motion for preliminary injunction that the ACLU filed, and so the city can continue to do what it's doing currently. Yes. So that's a huge victory, as it were, for those who didn't like the idea of the lawsuit, sir.
Judge also mentioned in that his decision that they would not, unlikely to win on the merits. So if I was the ACLU, I would bail out.
Right. That's one of the standards for on a preliminary injunction is supposed to show a strong likelihood of prevailing on the merits, and if you can't, then you're certainly not going to get an injunction. I mean, there's that, and you have to show irreparable harm. But if the judge's opinion did say that, and I thought so too, then yes. So I think things will status quo at the moment.
Hi, actually, I just wanted to make an announcement to Mr. Deutschman. If you want to submit those stats so we can put it in the Google Drive, or if anyone has information or facts, data they want to be added to the Google Drive, please submit it to the NCO so we can get it added, because there's a lot of great information coming out. Appreciate it.
Please send a copy of your almost weekly report to Anson, and he can pick it up for the board. Tim, I see you back there waving. Is that you? No? Okay. Oh, okay. So I don't see any other hands for this part of the presentation. HPD, thank you very much.
Thank you. Good night.
Is Ryan here from Community Policing? He said he was going to be here tonight. Okay, we'll put him on the next. No. Tell him we miss him. We'll put him back on. Dominic from Board of Water Supply.
Good evening, Dominic Diaz with the Honolulu Board of Water Supply. I'll make this quick. Month of December, no main breaks, currently no construction in Waikiki. As we start the new year, we just want to remind everybody to be mindful this year, as always, with our water consumption. I know we've had a lot of rain, but it doesn't mean we can be wasteful. You know, we always want to remind everybody water conservation is key. It's a good time of year to check your house for leaks, fix flappers in those leaking toilets. Uh, check for other leaks. We have tips on our website, borderwatersupply.com, detect a leak. And there's some tips in there how to go about checking your home for leaks and other ways that you might be wasting water. We are also partnered in a series of rebate programs, so low flush toilet rebates. We also have a lot of commercial rebates, so you can also go to our website, again, www.borderwatersupply.com, search rebates, and you can see residential and commercial rebate programs that we are partnered in. And I'd be more than happy to take any questions on behalf of the Board of Water at this time.
One quick question, that groundwater advisory that was issued yesterday, does that impact the drinking water supply? Is it okay?
No, that's a shoreline water advisory, I
not.
believe, right?
So it's okay to drink the tap water?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Unless you receive a specific boil, we would issue a boil water advisory if there was an issue in an area.
Hi, Happy New Year. And I like the goatee, new look for the new year. So I know the last meeting we had back in November, you were concerned because it had been such a dry summer. And then you were concerned about the water level. So you must have been a really good boy this year because it has been pouring. Right. So how are we standing right now at the water levels? And two, also, I was looking at the website, and there's a lot of great rebate programs. So if you have any flyers or anything you want us to upload, now that I have access to Google Drive, want us to upload, just let us know. And
Sure. In terms of water levels, it's dependent on sources where you are on the island. It varies. We don't have anything in critical conditions or anything like that right now. Like you said, we have had a lot of rain. The forecast was for a dry season coming up. It's just been a short period of rain, so not to say we're not going to look at a drying period forthcoming. Models are never perfect, but regardless, doesn't hurt to be mindful of our water use, even if it is a wet season. We could always use the regeneration.
I'm just giving you credit for being on the nice list.
Anything else? Tim?
Happy New Year. One of my projects this year is to get everybody to back the proposal to go to desalinization water and quit drilling. Drilling really deep wells, sometimes tapping, getting nothing. The amount of money that is being spent, and I'm sure every one of you have seen your water bill go up. Every month they put a little graph on how much water you use. At my household, we actually use less water than the previous year, and our bill went up about 20%. So when I talked to Ernie Lau, who's with the water department, and I'm trying to get everybody on board with this, talk to the mayor. We're surrounded by water. That's all we have is 2,000 miles of water around us. So there's plenty of water, and the technology that is now out, MIT just came out with a program that cut the cost 50%. And I want everybody to start thinking about that. It can cure all the droughts, all that landside up in Maui that was dry as a tinderbox. You got ocean water, it could be converted, that could all be green. Same with the west side on this island. So put it just in your mind because it's going to come up this year. And I want everybody to back it. It will really be helpful. Thank you.
So we've been speaking offline the last couple of months, and we are embarking on a very preliminary phase of a desalination project. So, crossing my fingers, it's one of the projects I'm involved in, and would be great to see successes there and opportunities for the future. So can't say I disagree with anything you said.
I'll give the last question. The good news is, or the bad news is, your rates are going up starting February 1st. The good news is Kathleen Pahanui is going to be here to explain that. So
Okay,
you don't,
yeah,
you don't
we
get
did
arrows.
several rounds before the holidays of rate study presentations. So yeah, the opportunity is there for our group to come in and explain what goes into a rate study, why the rates are increasing, what you can expect the Board of Water Supply to do with those increased rates. So I'm glad to hear that you guys chose to have them come speak about it.
Yeah, she'll be on our next agenda. You don't get away, but he'll be here too. I
Yeah,
hope.
no, I'll be here.
Any other things for the Board of Water Supply? Seeing none, thank you for always
right,
being
thank
with
you.
us. Next on our agenda, we have citizens' concerns not covered in the regular agenda. The board voted to give you 2.5 minutes on each one of these issues. Go ahead.
For now, this will be my final update to this board on the issue of residents and visitors being abused by the way too early morning trash pickup. All of you have had access to my over 20,000 words on this issue. Let me summarize those in the next 150 seconds. It was 2 years ago when I was first awakened as early as 2:30 a.m. by the activities of the trash companies. I mentioned then that changes occur in one of two main pathways, the path of dignity or the path of tragedy. I urge this board and others to take the path of dignity. We are still on the path of tragedy. How much more tragedy must there be before the consciousness changes? Who has the most power to protect residents and visitors from this abuse? Is it Chair Bob Finley in the Waikiki Neighborhood Board? Is it Chair Tommy Waters in the Honolulu City Council? Is it President and CEO Mufi Hanneman in the Hawaii Lodging and Tourism Association? Or is it President Rick Eggett in the Waikiki Improvement Association? The answer is none of the above. These individuals and organizations have all given up their power to the owners of the Honolulu Disposal Service and West Oahu Aggregate. At a December 16th Zoom meeting hosted by Senator Sharon Moriwaki, representatives of these companies admitted that work in Waikiki begins as early as 3 a.m. If they wanted to, these companies could start work even earlier at 1 a.m. because there is no law to protect residents and visitors. Last month, I asked this board to place this issue on the agenda of a meeting and invite the owners of these companies to come and justify their actions. That has not happened today, nor has it ever happened. I do want to extend my gratitude to the editor of the Honolulu Star-Advertiser and to the reporter, Allison Schaefers, for their excellent coverage of this issue. I also want to extend my gratitude to Mayor Rick Blangiardi and Managing Director Michael Formby. Recently, I had a face-to-face talk with the mayor and received a communication from the managing director. I am pleased with their level of compassion and desire to protect our residents and visitors from this abuse. 2 days ago, on Sunday morning, I also met with Governor Josh Green outside of his residence, and we had a positive conversation about this issue. Finally, in addition to this being my last update, this also will be my last meeting that I will attend until there is a collective change of consciousness on this board. Thank you.
Yes, is this something that's not on the agenda?
Thank you for. It's on. Talk in the top. Okay, thanks. Just one quick, sir, don't leave yet. Sir, please don't leave yet. No. Okay, years ago, Joan Hayes, which was representative of Waikiki, she was elected by running on Citizens Against Noise, against the very things that he's talking about. Now, I believe that the legislation was passed, and I believe that he and others should go back to that legislation and just see how you can fine-tune it and make it work better for yourselves. Thank you.
Yes. Please use the other side, sir.
Aloha. I'm a resident at the Waikiki Grand Hotel. It's a condo hotel. We have a crosswalk between us and the zoo. About 2.5 weeks ago, a couple of people were knocked down there by a car. About a week after that, the sign that's in the middle of the road there asking people to stop for pedestrians was also flattened by somebody. It's been replaced. But I'm here today, I would like to ask that this be put on the agenda for the next meeting. And if possible, to invite the Department of Transportation to come down to talk about any opportunities that we might have to make this crosswalk and the other ones on Kapahulu, all the way up to Kuhio, safer. We've had, I've lost good friends that have been killed in these crosswalks. And we have a situation where people are driving down Kalakaua Avenue, stopping at stoplights, and then kind of a stop and go thing. They make that left turn on Kapahulu, and then all of a sudden, hey, we're going ever. People step on the gas. And today, with so many people with their additional mufflers, we also get to hear that. But the real fear is the crosswalk. I have taken to not stepping out on the crosswalk when I cross with my Victoria. I stand on the curb, and I can watch half a dozen or more cars just drive right by me. The days when people stop for people in the crosswalk appear to be over. And so I think we need to draw some more attention to those crosswalks. At the very least, all of the crosswalks in Waikiki need paint. Has anybody ever noticed that? I would like to hear from the Department of Transportation if the chairman would be so kind as to invite them to attend, and if we could have a little time on the agenda next month.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ralph. In addition to what he's discussing, last week, a person was killed on Kapahulu crossing at the crosswalk. And it was broad daylight. It made the paper. So I think it's a valid concern. We have had a person come out of our building and get hit with their dog right by Denny's. And that was a couple years back, and she'll never be the same. So I think it's important that we look at this issue.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and sir, where was the intersection? Is this the one right across from Hula's or not? Yeah, that's a bad one. I definitely agree with you on this. So I appreciate you bringing that up. But yeah, it's numerous times people don't stop, specifically when I'm going to Hula's. Okay, thanks.
I also brought that up to, hold on a second. Listen, go ahead.
Oh, I just was going to say there's 3 crosswalks between Kalakaua and Kuhio, and all 3 of them are constantly, like Catherine said, people don't stop. They put signs a couple years ago after our neighbor got hit, but the signs get run over. It's got to be pennies for reflective tape or new crosswalk paint or something to do on those 3 at Lemon, Cartwright, and Kuhio up Kapahulu.
Last month in December, I had a meeting with Roger Morton, Department of Transportation, and brought those very concerns to him. I asked him if there's a way to move up the enhanced crosswalk marking for those crosswalks. And it's on right now, I think, the back burner, but I'll call him again this week. Any other questions about that? Yeah.
So, hi, Sarah Worth. Unfortunately, it's difficult when, technically, actually, we're not supposed to be talking about this because it's not on the agenda. But what I'd love to do, since a lot of people are interested, we could do a pig, and because that way we can actually do some research, talk to you, sir, and figure out like the best course, because it is hard to get transportation to come in. So at least we can get some data so that we can, when it does go on the agenda, we can address it. So I'd like to make that motion to have a pig to research the issues of crosswalks in Waikiki.
I believe you wanted to develop a PIG on this project. You certainly can make that motion. I would like to give the department a chance to come down and brief us first, and then take that up after the department briefs us.
Yeah, if you can get them down here, that'd be fantastic. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. John?
Real quick, the legislative season starts, and we always get into this timing problem where we have, by the time these bills are real, it's too late for us to do anything about it. So I brought the bill I'm working on to Lou. We have a habitual violent misdemeanor law brewing. We have the habitual property crimes law, which makes it a felony after X amount of property crimes, and that's worked really well. We put away about 10 to 12 people. We also have characters out there who have committed a lot of assaults versus police, a lot of sexual assault, a lot of misdemeanor violent crimes, and there's no punishment at the felony level once they build those up. So that's the intent of this bill. It's in the early stages, and I hope the board will support it as it goes along. The problem is, like I said, February or March might be too late. I don't know how all that timing works. Thanks.
Well, I mean, February is probably as early as we can do it in the sense that, first of all, the bill hasn't been introduced yet, but it is a draft. I mean, this board has traditionally been on record in favor of lots of concepts like this. So I suspect that the board can support this. Yeah, but I don't see how we can do it before the February meeting because opening day, I mean, here is January, opening day is next week. So, but I'll keep a lookout for it for sure.
Problem, Lou, is again, by the time it gets to March, everything hits the fan, and then it's kind of too late. So whatever, I'm just bringing it up.
Oh no, I agree. I mean, we've been having this discussion, about that scheduling as well. So I mean, the board needs to take action by February in order to be relevant during the session. If we wait till March, we're pretty much it's already half over. So no, I'll keep a lookout for this bill, John. Absolutely. Turn it on. Depending on how we want to do our legislation, I would add this to the list, and then we would send it to the board members, and then we would. Is this getting introduced by Senator Moriwaki or? Okay, so no, we coordinate with them.
Any other concerns that are not on the agenda? Yeah, go ahead.
I attended the neighborhood commission meeting, and I wanted everyone to be aware that the $1,000 that we were given, we were told there was no time limit. At the neighborhood commission, the neighborhood commission office stated that there is a time limit. So I'm hoping that, so just everyone's aware that we do have to use that $1,000, use it or lose it. And the money is supposed to do outreach for the community. So
I didn't know we got 1,000 this year.
the money is from carried over.
That was spent last year on Genki balls.
Oh,
Yeah. So waiting for the commission to let me know if we get another 1,000. Yeah, we threw Genki balls in the. Sorry. Any other citizens' concerns that things that are not on the agenda? Okay, move on. It's a quiet month. We have 2 public events. January 15th, a Monday, will be the annual 8:30 in the morning to 12:30 p.m. Dr. Martin Luther King Parade, King Jr. Parade. Saturday, January 21st, 2 p.m. to midnight, the Great Waikiki Festival. No one has asked me for any liquor licenses this month. Next on our agenda would be NOLA for the mayor's representative. And NOLA, are you here? She might be running a little late. Tommy Waters, are you here with a representative? Sharon, I saw you just sit down. Senator Moriwaki, you're up. Sorry to make you jump up and down. Happy New Year.
Aloha and Happy New Year, everyone. So I was passing out my message or whatever report. So if you have any questions, but the session has begun. I sit on the Ways and Means Committee, and it's been hectic because before session begins, we have a briefing with every single department, that's 17 plus. And within each department, sometimes there are 17 plus agencies as well. So we've been on a round robin here, and we've only gotten through about 2/3 of the agencies. So if you have any questions about any of them, I can tell you about some of the agencies, but we're going to start on the 17th. And the session will start with a lot of the bills being introduced. So if any of you have any bills or ideas, please send them on. The Senate, fortunately, has unlimited number of bills until the final deadline for bill introduction. I'm working with Representative Tam as well on bills that affect our district and also beyond homeless. I see Dr. Koyanagi here with the homeless, with crime, and I know John Deutschman sent us a bill that we are going to be submitting, introducing. So we have a new deputy director of the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. The big thing that happened this year is as of January 1st, we have two departments. That was initially one department, Department of Public Safety. It's being split up so that there's a Department of Law Enforcement, and that group will be in charge of all the sheriffs. So they're going to do consistent training across the board, across the counties, not the police, not the county police, but hopefully it'll move into that. But right now, getting some consistent standards for the sheriffs, for the harbors police, and some of the other Capitol Police that are in the state system. And then separately from that is the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. So the Department of Corrections will now be looking at how do we rehabilitate and some of the kinds of programs we've talked about in the past of before the inmates are released, have them look at jobs, job training, housing, and so that there's some effort so that when they come back out, they stay out and not go back to the streets and recommit. So, so that is very exciting, and I think that it's going to be a really good change. I've been working closely with the Department of Law Enforcement Director and Jordan Lowe, and he comes from Homeland Security, and he's been very interested in doing a lot of community work. So what they call the crisis intervention teams, where police go out with the various social agencies and also the outreach workers for homeless, being able to connect up and work with them. He's also working with the courts. So the community outreach courts, we're trying to make that a permanent court so that the homeless have a court that will go out to the community rather than having them come into the state court. So I think there are really some positive things going on to help our homeless to get into better places, but also instead of criminalizing them, moving them into a rehabilitative mode so that they can be productive citizens once again. So that's one thing. And then so what we're looking at now is the executive budget and looking at what kinds of things that we can support and also what things weren't supported and looking at that as well to see what are the needs. And it's because of the Lahaina situation and us trying to support them and getting them into a healing mode, we are a little more restricted in our budget, but we're looking at health and safety. We can't really neglect the other needs in the community. So we are looking at that very closely, but not forgetting all the others in need. Minimum wage goes up, went up January 1st, and homelessness. The homeless coordinator is now former representative John Mizuno, who has been very, very interested and committed to working with the homeless, supporting getting better places for the homeless. So that may be a real boost for those of us who have been really trying to help the homeless get to better places. And Waikiki, those of you in Citizen Patrol know the new schedule. I don't know if Ryan, Officer Yamamoto was here, but we look to him because he's been wonderful, wonderful, and his team. So, any questions? I'll be glad to entertain them.
Questions for the senator. I'll start with board members. Go ahead, Greg.
Aloha, Senator. How are you? I just wanted to make a comment. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but we've sent you through Kukua Council a couple of revised measures. So there was HB 178 and HB 1501 last year that are carryovers that did not get referred for committee hearings. We hope those get referred. But what we did this year, so I helped draft the revised versions.
Remind me what the numbers
Yeah,
are.
I will. It's HB 178 and HB 1501. This is for a condominium association ombudsman or a homeowners
The
association
ombudsman, is
ombudsman.
that the ombudsman one?
Correct, yeah. So 178 is, let's see if I get these right. 1501 is for condominium associations. 178 is for homeowner associations that incorporates all of the associations. The revisions that were done basically place the office, it's still under DCCA, but it's going to be the Office of Consumer Protection. And within that is Chapter 487, which has a lot of bite to it, a lot of enforcement. So I wasn't fully aware of that before, but this was a discussion that also came out of the task force. And one thing I did want to mention, if you take a look at this, and we hope that you'll support and push it through and refer it as a bill. So there's two of these now, one for 178, one for 1501. They would be, renumbered. There's an OCP advisory council, and when you look at the Office of Consumer Protection, I can't find much of anything about them. I've called the office and really got a runaround, and the last thing you can see there is from 2013, and there is no advisory council, and it's that we can find. And it is something that's established by statute. So I'm wondering, why isn't there an advisory council and what's going on?
Is that the DCCA or
It's under
is
the
that for
DCCA.
the real estate commission?
It's under the DCCA, and it's the Office of Consumer Protection under the DCCA. They handle anything that's not regulated. So the regulated part goes through RICO. Things that are not typically regulated through RICO would go through that office. When you call that office, I usually get an investigator from RICO, but it's just something to look at, and we hope that you can support the measures that we've
We'll look
presented.
into that.
And I have one more that you'll probably be getting later this week too. Thank you.
Jacob?
Thank you. It's sure going to be a busy session coming up here in the next few months. And there are just 3 items really I wanted to highlight that I have concerns over. I know past couple of years, there's been the quote unquote bail reform making the rounds, which is really just let the criminals run loose. And I was hoping to make sure that there's going to be no chance of any type of bail reform passing this session, which is going to be a get out of jail free card basically. And coupled with that, I'm hoping that we can finally secure dedicated funding to either repair or replace OCCC. When we arrest the bad guys, we have to have somewhere, decent to put them, I guess. And OCCC, I know, has been getting in a lot of trouble regarding its standards, making sure it's not crumbling. I drive past it home from work every so often, and it definitely looks dilapidated. So I think we really need to prioritize that kind of funding. And then last year I saw, I don't know if this bill is going to get carried over. There's this bill, HB 376, which would prohibit underwater mining in the state waters off Hawaii. While I don't think there's any chance of us discovering or even having anything to mine in our immediate state waters, there is the real potential to diversify the Hawaii's economy by doing deep sea mining to our south in the Clarion-Clipperton zone. And I feel like supporting this bill would really send a strong signal that Hawaii is closed to more opportunity. And I saw that you were co-sponsor, and I would just like to state that I think that's a bill I think you should oppose because it would really limit the types of opportunities our people really need here. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, Jacob, show me that bill again. That was from last year. That's. So,
Any other questions for Senator Moriwaki? Yes, ma'am. With your hand up, please use the microphone.
Thank you for setting up the 2 Zoom meetings recently about the morning trash pickup. I participated in the December 13 meeting. So your solution for residents was to call the trash companies in real time when impacted with the noise. And that solution appears that in effect, the problem will move from one area to another and that the residents will continue to be impacted. So my question is, can you share your knowledge and influence about this issue with the city council members in their efforts to introduce a bill for no trash pickup before 6 a.m.? Thank you.
I will discuss. I think we've discussed it. I think it's a problem. But these are private companies hired by individual condo boards or associations, so it's very difficult. So that's why I called the meetings, because if in fact you can identify where the problems are, those need to be addressed with the trash companies. There are only 2 left. There were 3. One had to leave the field. So I don't want us to be without, because the city does a pickup for the single family dwelling units, but the condo units are all done by private companies. So the city doesn't do that. So I think it's really having to work through a compromise and something that will work where people feel that they don't have to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning. But I think that there's, in Waikiki, the problem that has been identified is that there's pedestrians, especially tourists, they don't really heed the traffic. And so the trash companies are trying to do their work, especially in the hotels. And so we've got everybody having to jockey around to make sure that nobody gets hurt. So I think it's a continuous problem that we have to be vigilant and work on. But I don't think that by having a law, I don't know if we've tried it. Carlino has tried it many times. That if we keep on doing that, which doesn't amount to anything, we better find other solutions. And that's why I called the meeting, so that we could start that discussion and find ways in which we can actually find solutions that work, or at least a compromise that it will work for everyone, but at least enjoy their lives.
Any other questions for Senator Moriwaki? Go ahead, Tim. And then we'll get back to you, Greg.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
You weren't here earlier. One of my focus points this year is desalinization plants. I talked with Ernie Lau. I'm trying to get the public behind it. It's a cheaper way of providing water and avoiding wildfires like in Maui. This is a state issue, not Oahu. So I'd like you to just focus in. If you have any questions, ask me, or go on Google. It'll explain it. The whole country of Israel, the whole country is desal water. There are various places in California. I think it's a cheaper way to provide a needed resources for the whole state. And the second thing I'd like you to focus on, and we've talked in the past, is mental health facilities like Leahi Hospital. There's Anton Krucky right over there. You guys need to get together and make this work. We were just talking. It's been 3 years since I first brought this up. There's movement going, but we need to take care of it. Most of the people on the streets are mentally ill. Almost all of them. We need to provide a facility for them. I hope you can get that done this year. Thank you, Sharon.
Okay, thank you.
Greg?
Hi, Senator. One more time. I just wanted to comment on the early trash pickup briefly here. I wanted to thank you for the 2 Zoom meetings that you held. That was helpful to have all the participants gather together in one place. And I understand the issues. When I first arrived, I was woken up at 3:30, 4 in the morning quite often. But the one thing, I know it's a hard solution here, but the one thing you do want to really reflect on and look at, and I did some research and I haven't presented it yet because I've been busy with a lot of other things. There are harmful and negative effects, health effects, and there's quite a few studies regarding this with this trash noise or street and urban noise. And we understand people buy their properties and they might not even understand when they buy them what they're going to be subjected to. I didn't when I bought here. It is something to be aware of, and it's something where it causes early dementia and other health issues. And as a board member of Kakua Council, I'm also concerned with our kapuna, so just something to reflect on. And I'll pass some more information along regarding that. I feel bad when we have a resident who's frustrated, and I'm frustrated, and I don't know what to do, but he walks out and puts his arms up and gives up, at this point. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Anything else for the senator? I see no more hands. Senator, welcome. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
Does Representative Tam have a representative here tonight?
Hi, yes, this is Flora,
Where's
his office
representative here?
manager. Hello?
Online. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, good evening. This is Flora from Representative Tam's office. He is unable to attend tonight. I am here in his stead. As we've been mentioning, the legislative season is upon us. We have been asking now for bill ideas. We're happy to support any bills you may have. As Senator Morawaki mentioned, we work very closely together to introduce bills as companions on the House side. So please send your bills to us or Senator Morawaki. We would love your input. Besides that, you're welcome to stop by our office anytime. We do have some legislation this year supporting mental health. We're working on some bills to help criminalize and support the opioid crisis, as well as, of course, our capital improvements projects that we do every year. So if you have any questions, I can take them now.
Questions for Representative Tam? Go ahead.
I think you said Laura. Did I get your name right, Laura?
It's Flora with an F.
Oh, Flora. I apologize. That's why I wasn't sure. I just wanted to ask if you heard my comments to Senator Morawaki regarding the bills that are presented, because Representative Tam is also copied on those.
Yes. So for those bills, what you can do is since they are carried over from last year, they're still alive. And you can send us an email or call us and encourage your friends and other people who are supporting or supportive of these bills to request hearings for the bills to the appropriate referred committees. So I believe it would be, I don't have the bill in front of me, but if you go on the Capitol website, it will tell you what committee it's been referred to. And the
Right.
chairs of those committees are the ones who choose which bills they hear in the hearing. So, of course, we will request on your behalf, but it also helps if you, the people, get your voices out and call and email those particular chairs and say, hey, we really want you to hear this bill.
Right, I'll do that. I saw Representative Tam at Case's talk story recently, and I want to just remind you there's two new measures. So there's two old measures that are carryovers. Those were triple referrals. We're hoping we get them changed, but there's two new measures, and I will send an email probably tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Yeah, please send your bill language drafts to Rep. Tam, and we can have a look at them and get them drafted into legislation, hopefully.
Jacob.
Thank you for attending and all the hard work you and the representative are doing this session. I've got three concerns I want to bring up to the representative. First one is earlier today, Speaker Psyche noted that condo insurance is going to be one of the focus areas for the state legislature, the House this year. And as a condo owner here in Waikiki, its insurance rates are killing me personally, and they are killing, the association I'm living in. Insurance rates are out of control, and this is a trend going on nationwide where home insurers are starting to pull out of certain markets they deem high risk, including here in Hawaii. So definitely, I would like to definitely see some sort of action to really provide any type of relief for homeowners here in Hawaii. And then yesterday, we astoundingly had rolling blackouts in Honolulu. The grid, we have no resiliency here. And, that type of, it was just as simple as we lost a little bit of capacity and it sent the grid haywire. That's deeply concerning considering the natural and man-made disasters our state's been experiencing the past couple of years. We need to really refocus on energy resiliency. And I want to hear if Rep. Tam is preparing any sort of effort or support to get more resiliency into our power grid. And then finally, I would like to note that, this is a bit of a cultural tragedy, but the Falls of Clyde, the unfortunately now derelict ship over by Aloha Clock Tower, that's been delisted from the National Register of Historic Places, and we're going to have to scrap it. And we're losing, part of our history there and something that it could have been a really cultural attraction piece. And just down the road from our meeting place here is the Waikiki World War I Natatorium. And that place has been falling apart for decades. That's a really important piece of our heritage, commemorating those who we lost in the First World War. And I think at this time in the world, having some sort of memorial and reminder of the sacrifices previous generations have made is more important than ever. So I would encourage, if there's any money to be found, any type of support, please, let's conserve some parts of our cultural heritage before they crumble away. Thank you.
Anything else for Representative Tam? I don't see anything and nothing on WebEx. Thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
I see Nola is here. Nola, we got a little bit ahead, but welcome. Representative Mayor Blangiardi.
Good evening. Thank you, Chair Finley, members of the Neighborhood Board. Thank you for having me. Well, on behalf of Mayor Blangiardi, I just want to wish everyone a Happy New Year, and I hope your holidays went well. The mayor issued a really interesting, wonderful recap to 2023 in his latest newsletter. And if you go online, you can see, I printed this out, but this is what it looks like. And it shows some really interesting, I think the Neighborhood Board all got hard copies of this. Did you? Yeah. Anyway, it's really interesting because it shows things like we treated 101 million gallons of wastewater per day at the city's 9 wastewater treatment facilities. And we had 420,000 rounds of golf at muni golf courses. We renewed 88,407 driver's license. And of course, there's a lot of really interesting statistics, but I want to note that for the Department of Human Resources, we made close to 3,500 full and part-time hires, and we reduced the number of days it takes to get hired by 50% to 89 days, which is still kind of long, but we thought it was pretty good for less than a year. In this, this message from the mayor, I don't want to read it, it's too long, but you can go online. But he does note that in 2024, he will continue his priorities. As many of you know, he mentions public safety as first and foremost among our top priorities. And I know for the Waikiki neighborhood, this is a quite important priority for all of you too. And we are working very closely with HPD to help them recruit and staff up their forces, because one of the issues, I think, as we've mentioned before, is the reason there aren't more foot patrols is because there just aren't enough officers to rotate through on foot patrols. So we're working very closely with him. There's a lot of across the board ocean safety and ambulance support services that he is investing in. And the mayor does mention that in the wake of the Maui wildfires, that he has also put a lot of emphasis into maintaining the capacity of the city's emergency operations center by facilitating a lot of training, situation awareness, planning and strategic management, and utilizing what they consider a risk-based all-hazard approach for natural and human-caused hazards. So that's, kind of where we're, he's going in terms of 2024. But on behalf of the mayor and all of the people on the leadership, we wish everybody a wonderful 2024. And we're looking forward to working together more closely as well. In terms of kind of reporting from last month, in 2023, December, there were a couple of concerns that I wanted to report on. So one of the member Worth brought up the issue of the Honolulu Ethics Commission receiving tickets for a private dinner valued at $200. And I think the question was whether, who actually has oversight over the neighborhood commission office, and that is the managing director, who the executive secretary and the commission report, the neighborhood board reports to. Okay, I'll continue. Okay, and we can, you can put your question in. There was another question about the $1 million art donation from the Bloomberg Foundation. And a resident asked if a portion of the donation could be used on existing structures in the city, such as repair work on the Waikiki water fountain, which has not been operational for years. And then they asked for a contact for the Mayor's Office of Culture and the Arts. So what MOCA responded was that, unfortunately, the grant does not include repair work to existing city art. The $1 million grant from the Bloomberg Foundation has been designated for a series of interdisciplinary multimedia installations that connect key tourist destinations with their indigenous Native Hawaiian Ma'olelo stories. Native Hawaiians and Hawaii-based artists will be commissioned to collaborate with storytellers to research and create site-specific artworks that highlight the complex histories of often overlooked cultural and historical sites that have been affected by over-tourism. So right now, the city is working with the state of Hawaii to conserve water. So I think this is one of the, separate from the MOCA grant, whoever had asked that. The repair for the Waikiki water fountain may not be high on the priority list right now, just because of the water situation at the Board of Water Supply, which has impacted the entire island water usage. But it's definitely, and also it's not under the scope of the MOCA grant, but actually it is probably under Parks and Recreation. But I'm sure at some point when their timing is right, they will be able to get that water fountain back and running. So if you all have driven by Honolulu Hale recently, the water fountain at Honolulu Hale is also not operational due to the water issues. So when I first started with the city, it was running, but now across the city, we've kind of worked to try anything that we can control. We've kind of tried to reduce and minimize our water usage if it's not completely necessary. I do have a contact for anyone that wants to contact MOCA about the grant, however, and get more information about where the installations are. It's moca-info@honolulu.gov, moca.info mocha-info@honolulu.gov, and they can share with you what the plan is for the various art installations. There was a concern raised about the high voltage line exposed at Paukalani Apartments by Member Brown. And the answer was from DPP, and I guess they have asked us if they could have another, they can report out again at the next month. They haven't been able to get back to us about that to investigate. So we'll let everybody know. They're working on it, but we will let everybody know. We'll let you know. The businesses encroaching on the sidewalk at Koa Avenue, resident reported that the two businesses along Koa Avenue regularly use signage to encroach on the public sidewalk, the Shore Fire and the Seashore. So this also went to the Department of Planning and Permits, and they said that Shore Fire has an outdoor dining permit, and that is what allows them to put the signs on the sidewalk. And DPP will make sure that they're within the permitted boundaries. The Star Beach Boys, the Seashore Restaurant, has a notice of violation, November 1, 031, pending issuance of an outdoor dining permit or removal. So they already have a notice of violation for that other restaurant. Okay, Foot Patrol and Urban Corps, Jacob, I guess, encouraged HPD to move in the direction of policing, requesting Foot Patrol services 24/7. Not just in Chinatown, but the entire urban core. And I again, the HPD said, they prioritize community policing and really connecting and supporting the community. Ideally, they would like to establish more foot patrols within communities, but right now, because of the staffing shortage, it just isn't possible for them. As I mentioned, and Waikiki, they said they utilize officers in foot patrol when they have enough officers and staffing allows. So at certain times of the week or the month, I think they do it. But to increase it, I think will be difficult at this time. But I think they've noted it because I think it's been brought up a couple times. Okay, there was I think Tim mentioned the tiny homes, the accessory dwelling units. The housing office responded that they appreciate the comment that that DPP has information about the ADUs and a brochure has been attached. I'm not really sure, Tim, this was directed. I think this was suggested to the city, so I'm not sure they provided information about the ADUs. So if anyone is interested, if anyone has any developers that might be interested, I'm happy to provide that information. You can reach out to Neighborhood Board, and I'm happy to provide it through them. Okay, the bicycle lane restriping. This is the last one on Kalakaua. A comment from one of the residents that the bicycle lanes have not yet been restriped and requesting them to redo the restriping. And this went to DFM, and they're saying the rehabilitation of streets unit 76A project involves Kalakaua Avenue. It has started construction, and it will include restriping of the bicycle lane. So that's for the Department of Design and Construction. So I'm sorry that I don't have a timeline on that, but I guess it's part of the current project that's working at Kalakaua Avenue.
Questions for the mayor? Go ahead.
Happy New Year. I'm impressed. I can't even remember what happened in November. So I'm very impressed that you were able to get all that information and remembered it all. Unfortunately, my question was actually, so it turns out the neighborhood board, we cannot call the ethics commission for advice on if something's ethical. So then I went to the commission office, and Lloyd said the only way we can get advice or so forth is by filing a complaint. So my question is, when we have an ethics issue, like who do we go to for guidance? And I'll actually also email these, sorry, so it's clear. And I also, second part of that was also, who has oversight over the executive secretary of the neighborhood commission office?
Yeah,
Thank you.
So the answer to the second part is the managing director. So Mike Formby is our managing director, and he runs the They all report to him at the neighborhood board office. Um, I will get you the number, but there is an ethics hotline for anyone, the public or employees or anybody to complain to.
I know this sounds crazy, but they do not give advice to neighborhood board members because we're not elected officials. So that was that was the catch.
Everyone except neighborhood board members.
So that was the issue. But I will email you the question more clearly and the information I've already found out from OIP and the Ethics Commission and from the Neighborhood Commission.
Yeah, okay. Okay, I see. So your question is specific to the neighborhood board members.
Exactly, because
Okay, all right.
I know I'm kind of a pain about rules and I'm really trying to follow them. So that an issue came up where there was an event I wanted to attend. However, the tickets were $200, but we were given it free. So that's how that started. And I could not get advice anywhere.
Other things for the mayor. No, go ahead.
Aloha. Just a question on the homeless coordinator. I know there's the state homeless coordinator that was announced, and I just read that there's a city and county homeless coordinator. So the chief of staff is going to be transitioning into that position. And so it looks like the chief of staff position is open at this point because there was no one mentioned or named. They'll work hand in hand, I guess, the state and the local person. So that is a thing. I just wanted to make sure. And is that position for chief of staff, do you think that's going to be filled in anytime soon? Because there was a comment in that announcement that said in earnest. So, I mean, earnest could be, good or bad. I don't know, I guess.
Yeah, yes, I believe, of course, the mayor, needs a chief of staff as well as a homeless coordinator. I mean, they're, big priorities for him. So I believe that they intend to fill it as soon as possible.
Okay, and in the same context of the I guess the area of concern, I also read a Civil Beat article today that indicated that there were at some point, I guess during COVID or pre-COVID or during COVID, 19% positions were open. I thought I saw the number. I think if it's correct, is 27% positions are open. I don't know how that crosses over state, city, county, but I would assume a lot of that is within Honolulu County. Is that a correct number?
That's the correct number apparently for the state. And the state, of course, is statewide, so I don't know how many of their positions are on the island, but they do have a lot of similar positions and some very different than ours. But yes, those are the state numbers for vacancies.
Okay, do you know the city and county's numbers?
Our number is under 23%, so it's been hovering around that number for a year or so. So we've actually done pretty well. We've increased our hiring rate, but unfortunately, we run about a 15 or 20% retirement across the city and separations with the competition from the private sector, the state, and the UH. We share kind of similar jobs. So it's very competitive. It's hard to keep, people in jobs and as well as hard to hire. So I think we've done well hiring, but we do have attrition. So this is unfortunate. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Before you came in tonight, we had two concerns. One, Catherine and Melissa brought up about Kapahulu Avenue. There's, I believe, two intersections there that are extremely dangerous, three intersections, I'm sorry. I did talk to Roger Morton about that, asking him earlier if they could be moved up on the list of intersections that get enhanced protection. And evidently there's a long line of those. I intend to call him, but I don't want to blindside you and ask him to bring someone here next month. And the second thing is many municipalities team with community colleges to provide funding for training for essential jobs. And right now, one of the essential jobs is CDL licenses. Right now, one of the trash callers is short 40 drivers that need CDLs. The other one is short also. And I wonder if the city would be interested in trying to go out and team with the community college or some agency to try to fill those vacancies, because until they fill a driver's seat, they can't drive a truck. And if you can't drive the truck, you can't be out later in the morning. It's something the trash haulers keep bringing up with me when I keep asking them to start later. But until they can have an operator, it's very difficult. So I just wonder if the city would have a program that they could go out and
I wish
team.
we had a program because we have the same problem. We have, I don't know how many dozens of vacancies as well. We can't promote our entry level or our truck drivers to driving the bigger trucks, including our own trash trucks, without the CDL license. And you can't get the CDL license without a trainer. And we have lost our trainers and we can't rehire them. I've asked, the community colleges, and all of their classes are full and they're very expensive. They cost thousands of dollars per head, and we don't have that kind of money, and they're full. So I've tried to work with, we've worked with the UH community colleges. They have a program that can train for free to go into our jobs or to help promote our city employees, but they cannot find a CDL driver because it's the requirements to be a CDL driver and to actually get road experience are very difficult. And so, I mean, it's a problem in the private and also the city as well. So we have that, we are very challenged. We don't have a solution right now, but we basically have one or two CDL drivers training all the forces in 3 or 4 of these really big departments. So we don't have a solution. We've talked about it many times, but we unfortunately don't have a solution. I think community colleges is looking for a contractor from the mainland, but so far I think they have not been successful.
Sad.
Yeah,
Because for the past 3 years, we've been looking for a solution to later morning pickups, but
yeah.
Every time I go to meetings with the operators, they tell me who's going to drive, and it's banging your head against the wall.
It's really a dilemma, and we're constantly looking for options, but so far we haven't been able to find. I mean, the people who train the CDL drivers they're all retiring, and so they aren't on the island, unfortunately.
Maybe we could find some that are not working on Maui and bring them here.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a difficult thing to solve. Any other questions for the mayor? Yes, ma'am. Please use the microphone over here.
You are so thorough. Thank you. So I'm the one who complained, yay, on Koa Avenue. The surf shop, it wasn't a restaurant. The surf shop was encroaching with their sandwich board. They are no longer doing that. Thank you very much. The restaurant, though, Shore Fry, has not changed. You cannot bypass because they're chairs and they've got this fake lawn thing. It is still encroaching. So if you could check into that, I would appreciate it. And I also appreciate you mentioning the bike lanes and the restriping, even though you don't have a date. I appreciate your thoroughness.
It's on the list, so if that's any consolation.
I'm glad we made the list. So the last thing I had a question about is on the beach, the catamarans, the beach chairs, the rentals that they do. Is there any transparency with how much they pay to be there?
I don't know, but I can definitely find out. I would guess it's all public information.
I
can find
appreciate
out.
that.
Mhm.
Thanks so much.
Anything else for the mayor?
Ma'am, could you please tell me your full name?
Amy Ammon. A-M-M-E-N. Thank you.
I don't see any more hands, no waving. Nola, thank you very much for being with us. Happy New Year. And now, Council Chair Tommy Waters is here. Welcome. Happy New Year.
Hello, Chair. Hello, Vice Chair and members. Happy New Year, everyone. You know, one of the things I recognize is that our health is so important to everyone. I don't know if any of you had that terrible cough that's been going around. This is the first week that I've actually felt human. I still have it, but it's only at night. So if you forgive me if I have a truncated report. Thank you, Director, for giving me a cough drop. It really helped. But it's budget time. It's budget season again, folks. And we're waiting for the mayor and the administration to submit their budget to the council. But I'm curious, and I would love the board's input as far as capital improvement projects. So if you folks have any ideas on capital improvement projects that I can include from our district in the budget, I'd be happy to advocate for that. One of the things that came up last month when I was here, somebody pulled me on the side and said, what are we doing on the corner of Kapahulu Avenue and Alawai? Right, there was a monument there and it's just sitting there, it's not working. So I'm curious, if any of you folks have any ideas on what to do there, let's get creative. Let's think about something artistic that we can put there. We have to decide though up front that I don't think a water feature is going to work based on what the previous report was. But that doesn't mean that we can't get an artist to donate a sculpture of some kind or a large plant of some kind if you want. It appears that there's lots of plants there now, but I'm very, very interested in what you folks have to say about that. We do have the Mayor's Office of Culture and the Arts, and they have a new director there, and she's a fantastic person. And I'd love to work with her to figure out what we can put there. It's at that entrance or that side of the entrance to Waikiki. You could put a sign there saying, welcome to Waikiki, but I'm really, really curious. And it'd be great if you folks want to put that on your agenda to decide. The other thing that we're in this week is committee week. So all week from morning to late in the afternoon, we've been hearing bills. One of the things that we talked about today was the amended full funding grant agreement between Honolulu and the federal government, talking about rail, right? It's an amended agreement, which the FTA rarely ever does. So we're actually very lucky with the leadership of Mayor Blangiardi to help negotiate a truncated route. The whole idea there, folks, was there's money already dedicated towards it. We're just going to go as far as we possibly can with the money that's already dedicated toward it. Yeah. So it's going to end up stopping in the middle of Kaka'ako. But that needed to be negotiated with the federal government in order to get them to release the remaining balance of the money that was promised the County of Honolulu. So the City Council passed it out of the Budget Committee today. It's going to go before full council next week. If the full council approves it, the mayor signs it, the secretary, presidential appointee, the secretary of the FTA will actually sign it. The lawyer from the city will sign it, and the director of art will sign it. So that's kind of a big deal. The other thing I wanted to talk about that's really important that's come up today in the budget committee was hazard pay. You folks remember when the pandemic started, everybody thought that this was some disease that was far, far away in China. And you'd see people in those white suits all dressed up. And we thought, there's no way it's going to come to America. Guess what? It did. And it spread all across the country. And we thought, there's no way it's going to come to Hawaii. And then it did. Before you know it, the city shut down. People are working from home. People are dying. People are on respirators. They can't breathe, right? Well, guess what? In the negotiated contract of a government worker, they're entitled to hazard pay. Those police officers, firefighters, ambulance drivers, and other city and county workers are entitled to a boost in their pay up to $13 an hour per employee who put their lives on the line for us. That's going to be super expensive, right? So one of the things we're debating today in Budget Committee is whether or not we should be using the American Rescue Plan money to pay that hazard pay. The City Council had already appropriated approximately, the second tranche was approximately $200 million. We had appropriated that for affordable housing for homelessness, right? To build a desalination plant because of what's going on in Red Hill. But I think we're gonna have to claw back some of this because we're gonna get sued if we don't honor our commitment that's contractual, right? The hard part is, though, folks, is figuring out who actually was an essential worker, who actually was putting their lives on the line, who actually was on the front line. I mean, it's pretty common sense if you think about it. Most police officers were, right? If they were out there dealing with the public. How about the police officers who were behind the desk in HPD headquarters? Are they entitled to it? Interestingly, though, the firefighters are not asking for hazard pay. But ambulance drivers certainly, I think, were doing it. The other interesting question, folks, is whether or not bus drivers were entitled to it. They were out there working, but it wasn't in their contract. If you looked at the Federal Treasury guidelines, it actually says that the mayor could designate them. But really, do we have the money for that? But is it fair if we don't take care of them? When they actually went out there, and I talked to bus drivers who actually got sick and who had to go home to their elderly parents who were home, and they couldn't go around their families because they didn't want to get their parents sick and die. I mean, so those are kind of some of the things that we're grappling with today, as a matter of fact, at the Honolulu City Council. Bill 63 is going to be heard at the Parks Committee tomorrow. Bill 63 deals with concessions, Beach Boy concessions out in Waikiki. I don't see any surfers or Beach Boys here, unless if you are, please raise your hand. But, right on. But here's the thing. We used to require, or still do, it's in the law, that if you're going to steer one of those heavy 4- or 6-man canoes down in through Waikiki, you got to have a license. You don't just want anybody doing that, because if one of these canoes hit you, and believe me, I've been hit by a canoe, you could die. If you get hit in the head, you die. If you get hit in the ribs, you break ribs. You can puncture your lung, right? You want somebody who's steering that canoe who is qualified to do that. But guess what? DLNR says, we don't want to certify this anymore. We don't want to do it. So they just stop. And the DLNR contracts or concessions that they have on Waikiki Beach, they're not required to be licensed. But the city and county still has on the books that you got to be licensed. So what Bill 63 does, it says, we're going to delete that requirement, and you no longer, in order to have a city and county concession, you don't have to be licensed. I'm concerned about that. I don't know if you folks are. And I mean, I want to go down there and talk to the Beach Boys to see what they feel about this, because the Beach Boys that I've talked to in the past take a lot of pride in having that license and having that distinction that they're allowed to surf in Waikiki. Because not anybody can go and take a canoe and go surfing in Waikiki, right? I'm a canoe paddler. We can't do it. Oahu Hawaiian Canoe Racing Association cannot go there and do it. You gotta have a license to do it. So I actually want to ask Rick Agate at some point, and I got your email, and yes, I want to make time for you and talk about this and other things, but maybe we get the Waikiki Business Improvement District to help us to figure out how we can license these guys, right? I'm an elk member. You guys, anybody here an elk member? Right? Saw you in the gym once. Not because you don't go all the time, because I never go. But the Elks Club, if you want to take out one of their canoes, you got to go take a test. You You actually be able to flip the canoe over, you gotta be able to bail the canoe out, and you gotta be able to catch a wave. I don't see why we can't figure that out. Because it really is, in my mind, a health and safety thing. Yeah? Some of you go swimming out there, right? You don't want anybody steering these canoes. Another interesting thing, there was on January 1st, New Year's Day, there was a manhunt. I wish I was here when HPD was here because I want to ask them a bunch of questions. But there was a manhunt. And someone was shot. The guy shot a woman on the freeway, right, in the morning. And then apparently drove all around the island and was being chased. I got a complaint from someone who lives on the same street as the woman who had the gun put to her head. Remember that? The guy put a gun to her head and took her car. So the person who called my office and emailed me lives on that street, and he got little kids. He wasn't told at all that there was a manhunt going on. None of us really knew, right? I got another complaint from a gentleman whose mom got a stray bullet in her windshield. Here's my point, guys. I'd like HPD to be a little bit more communicative to at least tell us, hey folks, stay home. There's a dangerous guy out there shooting up the place, right? The key though is, and when I talked to Joe Logan, and he returned my cell phone call, I was so amazed. I got a call, the chief actually called me up. But he says, Tommy, I'm concerned about that because we don't want road people who are packing guns now that it's legal to go out there and try to shoot these guys. And he said he doesn't want people out there with their cell phones following him around. I get that. I get that. Maybe we don't have to tell the public that they're on Wailai Avenue coming down towards Chaminade. You don't have to give them that much detail. But wouldn't you like to know if there was a guy in Waikiki with a gun? What would you do? What would the normal person do? You go home, lock the door. I want to call my kids. Kai, get home now. Or where are you? You in school, stay there. You know, there was a guy who barricaded himself in Kapahulu a couple months ago. Remember that? There was a golf tournament at the Alawai Golf Course going on. HBD went and told the golfers, they were all pissed off because they couldn't finish their golf game, but they didn't tell the preschool across the street. So I got a complaint from one of the parents, like, oh my God, they were never notified. So all I'm asking, I got a hearing on this on Thursday at 2:30. I'm asking the police department to be more communicative, right? Be sensitive to I'm sensitive to what their concerns are, but they also need to be sensitive to the community's concerns, right? And our right to know. Because I think good people, when given this information, are going to do the right thing and avoid the area. Remember what the guy said in Maui when there was a wildfire why he didn't ring the sirens? Because he thought people was going to go run through the fire? That was ridiculous, right? Same thing, I think. If we hear there's one shooter, we're not going to go check them out because we don't want to get shot. And I hope people who, you laugh, Jeff, but I'm hoping that there aren't people who actually believe that. Let's go check it out. But anyway, so I'm going to have a hearing on that on Thursday. Nothing new to report on 1615 Alawai. It's still in a holding pattern. We've taken possession of the building, just waiting for the documents to be finalized. You know, I got a new amplified sound bill, you know, dealing with the street performers. The prosecutor's office signed off on it. HPD signed off on it. So I'll be, I can email it to you, Chair, and you can distribute it to the board. But it's ready to go. I'm almost done on the parades and street festival bill. In fact, I have a marked up copy right here. there's still some work. It's going back and forth between the Department of Transportation Services and Corporation Council. At some point, I think I got to just step in and say, okay, this is what we're going to do. But it's not ready for prime time yet. That's it. I've been talking way longer than I thought I was going to talk, but I'm available for questions.
Okay, questions for the councilman. Catherine?
Yes.
Hi, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
As far as the canoes are concerned,
Yeah.
I think the Coast Guard would have something to say about that because they are basically chartering the canoe, and by law, they must have a license to charter. It's called a six-pack. And that is something that you could use as a hammer.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll look into that.
Six-pack, PAC, for charters of vessels of any kind.
Okay, thank you.
Chair Waters. Hi, Sarah. So one of the issues was we asked a question to April, who is here, April Coletti,
Yeah.
about whether or not she was going to submit the question to corporate counsel about whether or not city and county can regulate what time trash pickup goes out. And that was going to be submitted to corporate counsel. Then she didn't do it. She promised she would. So I asked you in November if you could please follow up. So
Thank you. When we were discussing preparation for today's meeting that didn't come up, I apologize, and it did slip my mind as well. If I can get your contact information, I'll contact you directly, and I'll follow through with Corp Council to see if they did actually opine on that. But I apologize. That's 2 months now. You still haven't gotten an answer. I'm sorry.
Hi, Chair Waters. At the November meeting, there was a woman that stood up here and she had a concern about an assault on a family member at in front of the 7-Eleven at Enna Road, which is right around the corner from where I live. It's very, very close. I met with you in the back during the meeting, so I stepped away. You were speaking with her in the back, and I didn't get her full name, and I asked if you could, connect me into the discussion for that because she showed photos to both of us, and it was very horrific. I mean, the girl's face was slammed into the concrete. I have friends, family, other people that walk around this neighborhood. I reached out to your office twice. The last time was Adam. I spoke with Adam, and I haven't gotten any follow-up. This was, between November and now, and I would like to be part of that discussion.
Okay.
And know more about that. And I was going to ask you, can I participate in this meeting you're having on Thursday with HPD? Is that something that's possible?
Yeah, it's actually a public hearing at 2:30, and you could come in person.
Okay.
Or you can log on to honolulucitycouncil.org and you can participate online. You can testify or you could just listen if you want to. There's
Okay.
2 ways to do it. One, you could just watch. Super easy. At our website, honolulucitycouncil.org, is super easy to maneuver. So just log on and then you can go from there. But
Okay.
yeah, please, would you be like to testify as well?
I actually would. In another life, I used to play a police officer and a detective on TV quite often and back in the Bay Area. So I have an affinity towards concerns with safety. I do participate with Ryan Yamamoto in the citizen patrols every so often. But I'm very concerned about safety and well-being. And yeah, I would like to participate. I participate in a lot of the WebEx legislative meetings and other committee meetings. So
That'd be great.
thank you.
I did try to reach out to 7-Eleven to see if they could post a security guard or if they could even trespass, because I did talk to HPD about it as well. And HPD said that in general, 7-Eleven doesn't like to participate with or helping the cops do the trespass warnings, because that's basically what you need is a trespass warning. You need somebody from the store who's willing to sign off saying, yeah, this person's not allowed to be here anymore. And they're just incommunicado. So I'm trying to work other contacts that may have connections to the higher ups at 7-Eleven to see if we could just bypass them and go to the president of 7-Eleven. Because yeah, what pictures that I saw were the same pictures you saw. It was horrific.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll see you on Thursday.
Yeah, Alyssa?
At the beginning of your presentation, you had said suggestions for capital improvements projects. We've already made a couple this meeting with the crosswalks and the bike lanes on Kalakaua to be reinforced or painted or striped.
Very
And
nice.
Kapahulu crosswalks between Alawai and Kalakaua.
Actual crosswalks?
Yeah, 3 of them.
Okay, interesting. The reason why I'm asking the question, because the Department of Transportation Services presented to the Transportation Committee today on the pedestrian plan. And one of the questions I asked is, why are you blacking out these crosswalks? So that's why I'm asking, is it a crosswalk that simply needs to be painted? Or is it one of
It
those
needs
that
to
was
be
blacked out?
painted. No,
and-
we
'cause
need
they're getting
to
rid of
paint it,
crosswalks all over
signs,
the island.
and reflective striping or something.
Okay, so it's just worn out. It's not something that they were trying to get rid of. And if you tell me exactly where it is, I can drive by there and check it out.
What we're discussing is the fact that the 3 crosswalks that we're concerned about are Lemon Road, Cartwright, and Cohio. And there have been numerous people who have been hit or brushed, and one was killed last week on Kapahulu. And there were signs posted in the middle of the road. When John Yero was on the board, he would tell me the reason they don't replace those signs is because the buses take them out so frequently, it gets expensive. So perhaps it doesn't need to be such a flexible sign. Maybe it needs to be a permanent sign that'll make the bus driver wake up and smell the roses. Okay? So that's life or death. We've had an owner in our building who was hit and struck with her dog. Permanently paralyzed, she'll never function as a normal person. Another, person died this last week. There were several people that have been hit recently, and there's film from the Grand. And a gentleman, oh, there he is, Rolf, he has asked for time next meeting to discuss this. I know our chair has also met with people, but it doesn't seem to be a priority, and you're our guy. Okay?
And Chair Waters, thanks. At the start of your presentation, you mentioned the corner of Alawai and Kapahulu, right? Where that dry fountain is that the area? And I guess I'm all for rehabilitating that, but I'd be curious what the history of the fountain is, before we go rip it out or what. I don't know what the historical significance is, but I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
Looking at that.
Happy
And
to
then
look into
just
that.
going to those 3 deadly crosswalks. We all walk there. They put the speed hump on Kapiolani in front of McKinley, where the girl got killed. Let's consider that. Let's start looking at things that force drivers to slow down. Because asking them obviously doesn't work with drivers. They just race through our beach community on their way back to wherever they're going. So let's forcibly force them to slow down via these speed bumps.
Is that something that the community would be interested in, is those raised speed bumps like they did in Rio Leonard Boulevard? Okay.
And we can send you footage from a few of the crosswalks that we have between the Grand and Catherine and I from the accidents.
Okay. Thank you.
I've heard a constant theme with trash truck pickups. Everything in Waikiki is based around traffic. That's it. That's the focus. How can we accommodate traffic? Causing problems with the trash truck, it's causing problems with pedestrians. So I support the use of money, and it's something I met with Member Mertz about. This board, I think, needs to look into making Waikiki a lot more pedestrian friendly, and that's just a start to use that money to do so. So yeah, I think that's a theme that hopefully we'll work with you more in the future on too.
That'd be great. And if we could be real specific, I can put that exactly in the budget. Sometimes what council members and even legislators do, there's a pot of money for sidewalks, right? X amount, which I'm happy to increase. but we want them to come through our district if we do that. The other option is you put it in specifically for a particular area. I mean, like as specific as Lemon Road, Cartwright, and Trujillo. You know, I've seen both work, but sometimes when we do it so specific, the directors like it generally, right? They want more money in the pot and give them the discretion on how to spend it. So maybe we could work together on figuring out exactly what we should do in this instance. But one of the things I'd like to do too is maybe we can bring the Department of Transportation director to Waikiki. Let's get a small group of us on one afternoon. Keep it, 5 or 6 or 7 folks, and let's in advance identify some hot spots that we can take him to and say, look, this is the area. Here's exactly what happened. Here's the pictures of the person who was hit, right? If you want to come too, that'd be great. So you can talk from personal experience. And both the director and deputy director of transportation services is very responsive. And I think if we are really organized and plan a good trip, I can get them to come out. Yeah. And then that'd be great in anticipation of the budget so that they see it for themselves so that when I put in the budget, oh, okay, that's what they're talking about.
Chair,
Yeah.
one quick thought for you.
Sure.
I believe Hawaii has a Amber Alert. I think it's called Miley Alert. Perhaps you could write on the back of that for active shooter and save a bunch of effort. It seems like it's established.
I'll ask that very question during the hearing, that why wasn't that used? Stay off the road, active shooter. You know what the fire department does? If you sign up, they'll send you a text right to you. Boom, fire. Happening in this place, 3-alarm fire. They give you direct. Of course, the fire department has different concerns than the police department, right? But, there's got to be some middle ground, I think.
Sort of the same reason they didn't use the sirens on Maui.
I just use that as an example that, people are smart. We'll figure it out. We're not going to go run into the line of fire. Right, Jeff? Okay, thank you. Yes.
Did you have a last question?
Sorry. Look, so 2023 has been the year of just things that don't make sense, like ethics commission that won't answer ethics questions for board members. And I did ask about them blacking out the crosswalks.
Yeah.
So the answer I was given from HPD is that we blacked it out so that pedestrians are more aware when they're crossing. Because right now, pedestrians go, they think they have the right of way. And so instead of having drivers be more aware about pedestrians, they just took it all away, and now pedestrians, you're on your own. You got it.
So that's consistent with what Department of Transportation Services said today. It's counterintuitive, right? You'd think that it'd be more safe to have a clearly marked sidewalk. But I guess the logic is that and I've seen it too, that the pedestrians walking through a crosswalk aren't paying attention to the traffic because they think they're in a safe spot. And they're really not. They can't tell if the driver sees them or not. Now the onus is on the pedestrian to check out before they cross. Yeah, so I was really upset. I put in a bunch of requests for services when this was happening because it was happening island-wide, from Lunalila Home Road to Kapahulu. And if anybody's tried to cross Kapahulu, it's dangerous. It's super dangerous. Yeah. With or without a crosswalk. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Good to see you. Mahalo, everybody.
Is William here from the governor's office? I don't see him. Rick Eggett, are you here? Please.
Happy New Year, everybody. I do have some good news.
I heard that the Army has appropriated the money or set aside the money to fix Kalia Road. So it's in the design phase now. As soon as I get any more information about when they're going to be able to start construction, I'll let the board know. But that road, anybody who drives on that road over Fort DeRussy, Kalia Road in Fort DeRussy, yeah, it's in pretty bad shape, and the Army's going to fix it. I don't have any other announcements. I've been away for a while, but Happy New Year, everybody, and let's get to work.
I hope you're able to help with the licensing of the canoes.
You know, we did look into this when DLNR announced they were going to discontinue it, but I am interested, and at that time it was actually brought up that maybe something could be worked out with the city. So Chair Waters, we'd be interested in getting involved in that. We have the Beach Special Improvement District Association, and that would be something that we'd be interested in.
Hey, questions for Rick? Do you have a question?
Hi, Happy New Year. I'll save most of my questions because it was very nice of you to offer to meet and we talk and then address it. Sorry, I didn't have time earlier, but 2024 is going to be different.
Okay.
So one thing I have to, just for the record, you seem like the nicest guy, you know, people think the world of you, but I do have to say I still want to officially state that I don't think it's right for a private business, a corporation that does compete with other businesses, to have an allocated spot every month. That was that.
I'm sorry to say.
To have an allocated spot every month, because other businesses, other people who wish to present, they go to no one else has that, I guess, luxury. So I'm just doing it officially so it's on the record.
Well, again, I'll state for the record that I'm here at the invitation of the board. So you're.
Okay, it's almost 8 o'clock and we've gotten almost nothing done tonight, okay? So the more you and Greg and others keep talking, the more unhappy you're going to be that we don't get to deal with the bridge or the pig or anything else. So I would suggest that we stop talking and let's move the meeting on, okay?
Sorry, just to clarify, sorry, Chair.
Thank you.
Chair Finley. Just so it's clear, sir, that the majority of the time that was taken was by, when we had great stories and great information, was by Chair Waters. And it's actually the vice chair and the chair who were supposed to monitor time. So, sir, I do take offense to that. So, sorry, sir.
When you ask so many questions of every speaker, how are we supposed to monitor the time? Okay.
Yeah, I raise a point of order also. I'm actually.
No, I raised a point of order first.
Okay.
And if you read the rules about how we're supposed to behave here, we're not supposed to argue between each other. So let's stop doing it, okay? Right now.
End of discussion.
That was. I want to second that.
Thank you.
First order of board business tonight is the Evile Resource Center for Adult Health. Dr. Chad Korinagi, are you here? Doctor?
Good evening, everybody. I'll try to make this as concise as possible. I'm Chad Koinagi. I work for the Department of Health, Adult Mental Health Division. I wanted to brief you folks about an exciting initiative that's happening over in Evile. It's called the Evile Resource Center. It's a city building that's going to be leased to the state, and the state is going to be opening a behavioral health crisis center, which is a kind of a state-of-the-art way of adding to the crisis continuum for behavioral health patients who have psychiatric issues or substance abuse issues who are in crisis. So the idea behind the behavioral health crisis center is that when it's fully functional, and some of these places that we visited, like Arizona, they've been doing this for like 40 years, and these places are psychiatric facilities where police especially can drop off patients who are in crisis, typically brought in by on the statute of the MH1, which is when police bring someone in from the community. Usually they go to psychiatric emergency rooms, but Arizona and a bunch of other places have found that these crisis centers can more effectively triage these patients. The cops don't have to spend so much time in the ERs waiting for these patients to get disposition, and so they get faster, more friendly care in these places, cut down all sorts of costs for the system, including police time and acute hospitalization time. We will have flyers, flyers that just show the facility itself and some of the pictures. It's right next to IHS or the PetSmart on 806 Evilay Road. So we're working closely with the city, Mr. Krucky here, and when core folks are using the facility now, our targeted open date is going to be mid-February probably. Let Mr. Krucky have some words.
Doctor. Anton Krucky, the Director of Department of Community Services for the City and County of Honolulu. So the city, one of the things we think we do well is we have facilities, and we're now partnering with the state on this particular facility for this crisis center. And what really makes this unique is the police could pick up someone on an involuntary basis to take them there to see if that treatment can stabilize them and get them up to the next level. In terms of the homeless folks and the people on the streets that are out there, we've made some great gains in the last 2 years. We went after families. We used CARES Act money, and we went after families that wanted to be housed instead of the most resistant people to be housed. And we did over 300 families and 850 people. Those were mostly women, children, right, families. So what that does is it leaves us with a different population on the street, right? Because our homeless population is down. We're going to have a point in time count here shortly, but our homeless population over the last 4 years is actually down. And with that different population on the street, what we have is a lot of mental illness, and we have a lot of single males that a lot of drug use and mental illness. So these kind of facilities that we're opening up are going to help. I think earlier that was mentioned about Leahi Hospital, and we're going to work on medical respite there. We need, the basic city strategy is we want to do everything we can creatively to get somebody to make a decision to engage the system. Then we constantly evaluate our resources to service those decisions. So if you really want to simplify, that's pretty simple for a complex subject. We need beds of many flavors, right? Because until you get somebody in a bed, whether it's stabilization, whether it's housing, whether it's transitional housing, whether it's a shelter, they're still going to be on the street, right? You've just moved them somewhere. So we're working on that very hard, and we're making progress. But I think you're going to start to see more of these places come up. And what you're really doing is you're adding beds to the resources to service those decisions.
Questions? Go ahead, Captain.
Where do the patients go after they've been released?
So give a little more detail. So it's a 4-story complex. So the bottom floor is called the observation unit. So the bottom floor is where the police will drop off these folks and will quickly be taken in by the nursing staff and the psychiatrist. The bottom floor is intended not to keep anyone more than 24 hours. Within that time, they'll be assessing people's needs, referring to case management, referring to other housing sources. If they require a further stay up to 7 or 10 days, then they'll get transferred upstairs to the second level called the mezzanine, which will have people stay for like another week or 10 days. So the second floor and first floor both can refer to subsequent other dispositions like drug rehab or permanent housing or other stabilization beds across the island run by Department of Health. And then the third and fourth floor will be supportive housing, about 20-something units of supportive housing that patients will stay at indefinitely.
Jacob?
Thank you for coming to take the time to address this serious ongoing issue. And I'm glad to hear that the homeless issue is doing better. But unfortunately, right, I appreciate the commitment to getting people to come off the streets voluntarily. But there are not a limited number of very hardcore cases where people will not come off the streets, and they have an outsized negative impact on our community. Just up Kapahulu in the Kaimuki neighborhood, the news was reporting last month that business owners are very frightened, and they're losing customers, they're losing business because of how, the hardcore people who don't respect the community or the laws are really disrupting them. So I really encourage doing whatever you can to, at a certain point, the voluntary approach, while beneficial, isn't addressing the whole thing, and we need to make it, we need to streamline the process to get the people who cannot care for themselves out there into services. And on the back end, with the budget discussions coming up at the city and state level, hopefully our lawmakers can find the additional funds to get additional beds, so that way we've got people to put somewhere and we're not just doing homeless sweeps to put them in jail. Thank you.
I just want to say this is great stuff. And so as someone who deals with this issue every day in my job at the Disability Rights Center, this is exactly the kind of facility that we need. This is the kind of thing that advocates like myself have been talking about for a long time. And for those of you who don't know Dr. Koyanagi, I can tell you I do. And he is really one of the heroes. He is somebody who walks into the worst parts of these areas that everybody here squawks about, and talks to these people and tries to get them to either take medication or turn their life around. And so I just want to say thanks again, because it is a big issue in Waikiki, and this is exactly the kind of facility that is taking a step to accomplish something really tangible. So thank you.
Thank you very much for those comments. To the previous questions, it's a very difficult thing with our laws and how we deal with people. But I just want to tell you, and I was a testifier. We did pretty good against the ACLU last week when that injunction was stopped. So that was good news.
Hi, guys. I've been studying this in depth for 3 years now. I follow every arrest in my neighborhood. And I've come to this gloomy conclusion, despite all of these great efforts, and this is a great effort, that because of the law, once a person is stabilized, they have to be released. We have a guy who's in jail right now who was declared unfit for trial 7 times last year. And now he's going through the process again. He's 82 years old. He'll be kicked back out in the street again. So this stuff sounds great. We are supportive of it. The reality is, because of the Supreme Court ruling on this, unless they're an imminent danger to the community or themselves, they get kicked back out in the street. And I see it over and over and over again. I know their names. I know who they are. So this sounds good, but I don't see success rate above like 5% maybe, unless I'm missing something. So maybe you could shed some light on that.
One additional comment. As part of my job with Department of Health and Adult Mental Health Division, and having been a homeless provider for the past 25 years, one of the tools that we started a few years back, which needs to be greatly expanded, is the assisted community treatment law. So that law allows people who are severely mentally ill or severely addicted to drugs to be compelled to treatment if they fall off their treatment. It's a difficult process. The treatment team has to do a treatment plan, go to family court, go to testify in court, get the court order, work with the hospitals. It's a long process, but it will pay some dividends. But I would like to see a lot more improvement in the mental health system upstream, so that all these people don't suffer, and we end up just trying to kind of scrape them off the streets with these tools. But it speaks to the need for greater engagement of providers with patients who are in the early stages of their illness, not when they've been sick and untreated for like 20 years.
Any other questions on this project? Hopefully it'll help the people that go to Queens for 1 hour and then are released. It sounds like a better solution. Thank you very much for coming tonight. Next on our agenda, we have a request by Daniel Jacob to create a permitted interaction group on legislation. Daniel, do you want to?
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to try to make this really quick. Try. The way this board has looked at legislation in the past is through the good work and very hard work of Lou and Chair Finley. Lou will generally create a list because he does so as a natural part of his job. He'll submit that list to the neighborhood board. We get consideration of that list, which has sometimes 30 some odd bills. We vote yay or nay to that list of 30 set of bills. And then Chair Finley does a lot of work on this board's behalf, filling in pukas, getting detailed in testimony, and representing this board on its decisions. There's three essentially ways in which this board can handle legislation. I don't think any one of them are wrong. I think it's more important that we take stances on legislation than the procedure which we use to take the stance. That being said, our current procedure really does not allow due diligence for a majority of this board to have a full conversation on priorities of legislation. Would take this board more time than it has. For that purpose, I have been working with Lou, and I've actually contacted the Office of Information Practices to figure out what is a way that we can involve more members of our board in a process that doesn't violate sunshine. Sunshine law prohibits any of us from talking to one another more than two people at a time. So I can go and talk to Chair Finley about legislation and length, but I can't include Lou in that conversation. So right now, when we pass the bill or pass approval of a list of bills, Chair Finley does not have the opportunity thereafter to go discuss specifics of those bills, to prioritize those bills, to concentrate on which bills should be put our weight in because if they're still alive and they're working with our legislator. So there's two ways in which the Sunshine Law allows more than two people, but less than a quorum, to work together in a manner that's not subject to this environment. And that's a committee and a permitted interaction group. Now, to save us time, I don't want to discuss committee. We've discussed it in previous, but the permitted interaction group is a vehicle that I think would adequately allow this board to work together with more than two members, less than a quorum, to consistently monitor the legislation. And this would address, John mentioned, the timeliness of our meetings only being once a month, but the legislative session being fluid and live for the course of 5 months. So unfortunately, the way the agenda item is posted tonight is insufficient in my conversations with OIP to do what I think is best. So what I'd like Chair Finley to do, and I'm going to explain this briefly, is to essentially allow this agenda item to come back next month with a little bit more clarity. And what would happen is Lou is going to present that list just like he always has. This board will vote yay or nay on that list, on some form of the list. Immediately after the approval of that list, we'll establish a permitted interaction group pursuant to 92.2.5B2, which allows more than two but less than a quorum of members to present, discuss, or negotiate any position which the board has already adopted. So once we take a position on legislation on the next February meeting, we can create a PIG immediately thereafter, include Chair Finley, more than two members, less than a quorum, and then at that point, that group of people can go freely discuss the legislation, how they're going to approach the legislature, how they're going to put testimony in, and it relieves Chair Finley of having to do all of it by himself, and it does so in a manner that we don't violate the Sunshine Law. So I think this board, and we've heard for the ability of capital projects on how to make Waikiki more pedestrian friendly, focus on pedestrian, not traffic. We really do need to start looking at the forms of PIGs and committees because we don't have the time and the ability to really address these issues as deeply as they go. And so, Chair Finley, again, I apologize for my learning curve on how to figure out a way for us to better collaboratively address legislative session and bills, more freely do so without violation of the Sunshine Law. So again, I would ask that you work with me to create an agenda next session or next February that allows us to approve the bills, designated group to go represent us thereafter, taking all the burden off your back and putting it amongst a few of us, less than a quorum.
Be happy to.
I think it's an excellent idea. We've been talking to try to figure this out. I mean, we've done what we've done for a long time, and the way we did it worked pretty well. But at the same time, it would definitely be a good idea to involve more members of the board. There's a lot of us that are interested in legislation. There was never any intent that me and Bob do it all. Well, it was me and Bob. I would send it to Lisa, who, as the secretary, was excellent and extremely competent and would help me break it down by topic. And then she would send it to the board members. So me and Bob and Lisa kind of did that. Ultimately, pig or no pig, it's really up to the board. I mean, the idea was really to present to you folks a list of bills that we think you might be interested in, and then you could vote yes or no, and then Bob would go and submit testimony. But it's a ton of work. I mean, I think those of you who've been around know that, and so I certainly welcome some help. I'm sure Bob welcomes some help. So I think we'll continue to work on it. We'll figure something out, and we'll come up with something that makes sense.
Yeah, Greg.
Just a quick comment. I think because the legislative session goes so quickly, it's opening up on January 17th. By the time we do this, it's going to be almost gone. I think it's a good idea to have something, but I think we should have done this prior to this meeting, and at least at this meeting. So I don't know how this is going to work out, but for all of you here as board members, as I just said earlier, I've drafted legislation in 2022 that was in the 2023 session. It's going to be referred to 2024. I'm working on more. Anyone that has legislation that they want to propose or whatever, you can do something. And you can always, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Chair Finley, you could submit to our neighborhood assistant something, neighborhood assistant, and he can forward it to the full board for just awareness of if there's a...
Which is pretty much what we've been doing. And
right.
Let me make it very clear. Whether you like, if we vote for a bill, then you as a board member can send in testimony as well as a board member. If we do not vote for a bill, you as an individual may submit your testimony as an individual.
Correct, absolutely.
So we do not hold anything back. In the past, we have had a special session just for legislation, and it was not well attended, but we had a quorum, so we were able to take what the board members wanted to be supported and support it with letters to various committees. It's something that takes a whole bunch of effort. I'm willing to make the effort. Lou always makes the effort. Daniel is going to make it. I have to see what you send me in writing.
Could I ask a question? Just
Sure.
a quick question. Are we allowed to have a special meeting? Because there's, in my notes on the next topics coming up, there's a special meeting that the McCully Mo'ili Neighborhood Board had regarding the Alawai pedestrian bridge, and hopefully we'll get to that in a moment. Are we allowed to have a special meeting where we could have a special meeting to discuss
We can
legislation
have a special meeting for legislation if
and open it up to the public for their input? Because the public's
every
voice is
meeting
the
we have
loudest
is
voice.
open to the public.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So the public can also give us some
The point
ideas.
is, it's coordinating a special meeting, finds a location,
I understand
having
that.
him, and all that sort of stuff. If we get to the point where we need one, we can
Okay.
certainly schedule one.
Okay, just a thought. Thank you. I don't want to take up more time. Thank you.
Sure. Any other thoughts on this? Daniel, you'll get me something in
I will work
email?
with you, Chair. Thank you.
Okay. Don't see any other questions. So, okay, we'll move on to, okay, Daniel, you have a resolution regarding the proposed Alawai pedestrian bridge. Well, you or somebody needs to make a motion to accept the resolution.
Yeah, you said Daniel, though. You meant Greg.
Said Daniel? I'm sorry.
He did, yeah, just to clarify.
say I
No worries.
totally
I
apologize.
just want to make sure there's not something I'm not
I
aware
was
of.
looking at my agenda, I saw Daniel.
So I make, well, we have it on the agenda. So I make a motion to discuss this resolution at this board meeting. And if I could get a second so we can have the members, the community members present, that would be great.
Point of order, Chair. I think the motion is to pass the resolution, and that would spur the discussion. Just a friendly suggestion.
So I think I heard,
Yeah, it's on the agenda, so we can discuss it. So I would think the board members' intent is to pass, make a motion to
Yeah,
support.
I thought we could just discuss it and then make the motion to adopt the resolution, but because it is on agenda, but if I have to motion for it,
I'd like that on the floor so we can discuss it.
okay. So I make a motion that we get this on, in discussion and we're able to discuss the resolution for consideration and adoption at this board meeting.
Is there a second? Second. Can you, Member Worth, can you repeat the resolution so he gets the language correct?
Yeah, I'm motioning to discuss the Alawai pedestrian bridge resolution so that the board can vote and make a decision on it.
Would
I
it
don't
be
know.
simpler to say for approval?
For approval. Thank you. That's better.
Mr. Chair, I spent 30 years in the legislature, and, you know, the proper way to conduct business is for a member to make a motion, and it should really be reduced to writing. And so we all can see it, and then there's discussion, and then there's a vote, and that's all that should be reported in the minutes. If you follow Robert Rules of Order or any other rules of order that I know of. But just to make a motion for discussion, I think it's out of order.
So can I suggest that you make a motion for acceptance of the resolution? That work?
Again, Dylan, maybe you could assist because I didn't think I needed to make a motion at this point. It's on agenda for discussion, and then at some point where we discuss the resolution, I mean, it's already on the agenda.
No, great question.
Okay.
I am going to side with these gentlemen. The proper procedure, an item is on the agenda. Before the board goes into discussion, there should be a motion on the table. This is board action, that's why.
Right.
So the motion would be to approve or another action, but not to just open discussion.
Okay.
Because when you have a motion on the table, discussion follows.
So that's fine, and I was
Yeah.
following that. So the motion is to consider I mean, if you want to use the word consider the resolution for the, okay, approve. The motion is to approve the resolution as presented for the Alawai pedestrian bridge.
Does that go with the second? Okay. For the explanation, Laura Ruby, please use microphone.
I believe, following this gentleman here, that you have to have first the presentation, the second, and then you have a show of hands that says, yes, you can put it into discussion or not. Which,
No,
okay, okay, we're fine. Okay, good. Okay, what I put on your tables are a condensed version of the proposal. Let me just start out with giving just a little bit of background. You can see I'm wearing a Maui Lahaina t-shirt in support, that we all are in support of their restoration. And this was given to me by a student who did a video on the last days of the plantation and mill in Lahaina. So, I mean, it's you know, the whole character of Lahaina has been disrupted. There's workforce housing, and there's people that live and work in the shops and everything like that. What I believe is that they are now you've heard that there's a big discussion about how the people are trying to have the community input so that what is going to be done is in the best interest of their community, but also in the individual neighborhoods, you know, whether it's the Mauka country, which is more residential, or whether it's the Front Street, you know, group or whatever. Now, the important thing to note with this, where I'm leading into it, is that I am sure that there are going to be a number of EISs. That's, as you can see, it's called the environmental impact statements that are done for each one of those committees that will have community input at the outset as to what they want to have done with their community. So it's not something done by planners or developers from somewhere else. It's going to be done by the community that will work to an accommodation and agreement on it. So that's set up. The second thing is either in the past or currently going on, and I don't know, Rick Egged left, but he might know, but there is an EIS that's going on in Waikiki along the shoreline. And this is very important because it identifies all of the things that the community needs to and wants to see done for any kind of improvement. It's not just environment, it's not just buildings, it's about the social, cultural, historical, community, human interaction that's important in an EIS. So what I have is the shortened version. I'm not going to read it all, but I'm just going to tell you that it's they have what's called a draft EA. This is a junior version of what should have been done. It's a shortcutting of planners for something that might be a bridge and site. And I have to say site because site's very important. Where a bridge goes to somewhere, it just doesn't sit floating in the air. And so this is something that they're doing is shorthanded everything. And so it did not take in the community at all. Matter of fact, the community never had, of all the many, I've been to every single meeting and nobody ever responded back to me as to all of the testimonials and the statements that I made or made any changes at all. So the community is not never received any responsiveness. And every time I went to one of these meetings, even the latest one that they had, it's like warmed over. They have never done anything that goes any farther than what they first did with their proposals. So very disappointing for such a huge amount of money that's going into that particular thing. So what I'm asking for in the condensed version basically is that the draft EA is not sufficient. It's not sufficient for the community. For your side of the community, because think of Kalaimoku Street. That's a residential neighborhood. Over on the Mo'ili'ili side, it's a residential neighborhood. You'd think that the community here in Waikiki would like to have an input also because of the increased, whatever you want to call it, traffic or vagrancy or whatever it might be coming through that neighborhood. So think about it that way as being, it needs to have a whole community input. So we're asking for is that a full EIS be undergone so that the community can truly have an input in what's going on with the site. And I mean the site on both sides of the canal and what might be a bridge over the canal. So you understand, we're not talking about anything particular about a bridge in this case. What we are talking about is the community input, and we're talking about a full EIS, which will give that information. Think about the one that's on the other side, on the beach side of Waikiki that's going on now. It's going to be, you can read all of, these are very lengthy documents, but very thorough, and they take the community into hand. So Luciano, I'd like you to, Luciano? Luciano?
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
Thank you. Happy New Year. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you today. You have in front of you a resolution to adopt a full environmental impact study for a big project that is coming here, that is this bridge across Waikiki and Moiliili. So it affects both neighborhoods. It's very important. Also, it is a overbuilt bridge proposal, is a big project, oversized, overdesigned. The city is pushing this project because it benefits pedestrian and bicycle. However, they did a study of more than 1,000 words, pages, which I think you all read it, because we have to approve or disapprove this project. And in those 1,000 pages, they said anticipated findings of no significant impact for the proposed bridge. And if you go through those thousands of pages, you don't find many of the issues that community people and experts of the history of the neighborhood like Laura presented. And I am a resident of this Aupuaca. I've been here half a century. I live in Seaside until I got evicted because they destroyed my little place to stay. And I've been living in Manoa, and also now I live in Makali, Moilili. So I know the situation well. And to help you out, I prepare a testimony in favor of this resolution because we own to ourselves that the city that will have to spend $63 million for doing this project and has received from the federal government $25 million, a lot of money. We own to ourselves that the study be done properly because there is serious impact. I beg you to read my testimony because I mostly indicate the impact, particularly on Moilili, which is my neighborhood. But basically, in that report, you don't have the history of the decision that have been done in the 70s, the 80s, in the year 2000 about this bridge. There was a lot of community comment with the pro and cons and mitigation suggestions about this bridge. All this information should go in the proposed plan. There is concern with public safety. We have been talking about crime a long time today. And there is concern for public safety for the school children of Alavai. I'm not making this up. I have a letter from the principal of Alavai School that raised the issues from workers at the school, the teachers, and the parents about the potential crime that would occur because of the bridge impacting the school. There is also
Thank you. Please summarize.
Actually, I have a point of order. This is on agenda, Daniel, so he's not just a member of the public. His name is on the agenda, and if I could, he didn't introduce himself as who he is, but...
Excuse me, you're supposed to talk to me.
Chair, okay. Chair, if I
Please
could.
take 30 seconds and please summarize, sir, because we're out of time.
Okay, but he's
Thank
not
you.
just speaking as a member of the public.
Summarize. I did the service to you of writing this proposal, providing photographs. Please read it because it will help you to see that there is many issues that are not coming out. I'm not allowed to present because of the format that will encourage you to want to have a full environmental impact statement that describe this project properly. Thank you very much.
I'll take inputs from board members.
Just to make
Excuse me.
one sentence of summary. You folks are all part of a community. You care about the community. That's why you're here tonight, and that's why you're board members. And all we're asking for really is that the community can have a say in what is going to go on in both sides of the canal of our community. And that's with a full EIS and with the full community in an advisory capacity. So we thank you so much. We'd really like everybody to be in support. And the other two neighborhood boards, the Diamond Head and the Mo'ili one, are also going to have theirs too.
Point of clarification, if I could, Chair. Chair, point of clarification, just so we have for the record who the gentleman was that just spoke. He didn't even say his name when he got up. I know it's on agenda, but the agenda is not correct, actually. They forgot some information. So Professor Emeritus, University of Hawaii, Just want to state it exactly. University of Hawaii Department of Urban and Regional Planning. That's who just spoke. Thank you.
Yes, Luciano's been around a long time. He's very well respected. I have tremendous regard for him. That said, I mean, I guess since we're sort of into a discussion mode, I'm as sympathetic to the neighbors on the other side of the canal as anybody on this board is, and I've been very clear and vocal in my concern about the current design of the bridge. I think it's way too big and it needs to be scaled down. That said, I personally cannot support the resolution as it's drafted. I don't know that a full-blown EIS is appropriate. Maybe it's a good idea, but I'm a lawyer, right? Daniel's a lawyer. There's a legal process. They have already done an EA. It's up to the accepting authority of the EA to make that decision about whether they need to go forward with an EIS or not. If they say no, there's a legal process by which this can be challenged. An EIS will delay this project by 2 to 3 years, and the federal money could lapse. I personally would support an amended version that urge the city to scale it down or do something like that. And I think that has been the sentiment of a lot of people on the board. But I think the idea of putting us on the record demanding a full-blown EIS is completely inappropriate, and it doesn't make any sense. The city's not going to do it. They're going to tell us to basically take our opinion and stuff it. It's going to be a worthless exercise, and I think we're going to get a lot more done trying to work with the city to scale down the size and come up with something that everybody can live with. So I never imagined that the resolution was going to talk about an EIS. I mean, that was certainly not my understanding. Is we were putting this thing on for discussion purposes and maybe for some potential action along the lines that I'm suggesting. I don't know where I mean, maybe Laura came up with the EIS or Greg submitted it, but I will vote against it as is. If you want to look at an amended version, either at this meeting or another meeting, I would certainly support that.
Yeah, point of order.
Jeff is our resident EIS expert, so he may have some input as well.
Mr. Mers? Okay, Catherine?
I too object to this resolution. I have attended meetings on the other side where we in Waikiki were portrayed as riffraff. We were told that all our homeless would go over to Mo'ili'ili, all the robbers would go over there and steal off the back lanais. I think this is a bunch of scare tactics. I read the original resolution, and you included Waikiki Board on approving this. We did not approve it. I find that your information is false. As far as the site situation, we've had people come in here before regarding condominiums, and other condos were going to be built in front of them. And when people challenged that, they were told there's no guarantee to site that another building, a bridge, whatever could be built. There have been, as far as I understand, and I may be wrong, 2 environmental studies. I know that they have made numerous presentations to the community. We will spend more money on having another environmental study done for no reason. And then it's going to cost more to build the bridge in the first place, which is going to be built. So I object to the resolution.
Go ahead.
Good.
We'll let the sirens go here just for a second. I know we're almost out of time. We're way out of time. I'm Michael Brown, and from what I've heard tonight, and all of us talking about is working towards a much more pedestrian-friendly Waikiki. And we've talked a lot about road crossings. We've talked about bicycles. In the past, we've talked about complete streets. And we're talking about connectivity of neighborhoods. And we're talking about people connecting with each other. And in front of us now is all of a sudden the difference between a draft EA and a full-blown EIS. And I can't even imagine that that's what's being presented to us tonight to consider. So I'm not for this, and I won't be for that. What I am for is a discussion about the connectivity of neighborhoods and the walkability and livability of our neighborhoods. And I think that is to the benefit to all of us, and that's what the Alawai Bridge is all about. Thank you.
We're discussing board members. Mr. Mertz?
Yeah, Laura, did you write this resolution?
Yes, and I've read the draft EA. I hope you have also.
No,
because
I had one question. Answer yes or no. Did you write this resolution? Okay, I'm in receipt of two. There was one that we received that mentions concerns with the historic Malia canoe and also with the birds flying into the bridge. But then the one that was put on our desk is this a new revision that you're just presenting to us or
It is a
what?
condensed version, just aiming for community input on a full EIS. And remember, the community was not consulted, and there was no input at all.
So
on
which
either
one
side
should we
of it.
be reviewing? The new resolution or the old one? Which one are we
I would
debating
prefer
and
the
voting
newer
on?
one because it only targets two things, the full EIS and the.
Point of
and the-
clarification, Laura, if I could, Chair, point of clarification. The one, there's a sunshine law, so the one that's posted, as far as I know, Dylan, maybe you could assist here.
Is the old
The
one,
one,
yeah.
the one that's posted on the shared Google Drive is the one technically that we would have to look at. But if we're allowed to, and that was a question I was going to ask you, if she revised this, would we be able to also look at the one she handed out? If you could help with that. It's a slightly different version.
So just to be clear, we're not registered parliamentarians. We're not legal
Okay.
team. So this
And
is
I don't
just-
think we are
this
able
is just
to.
an input.
Correct.
But as long as the board members have reviewed the same information ahead of the meeting, even at the meeting, if they all agree on it,
Okay.
it's whatever the board's decision is.
So if the one in front of them, they all have the same thing,
It's
that
great
would be
for the
acceptable.
public to be aware of it, but at the bottom line, it's what is the board's decision after hearing public testimony?
Okay, thank you for correcting that.
Okay, Laura, if you wrote this, just you saying an EIS is needed doesn't make it. So let me finish. I have the floor, quit interrupting me. What you need to do, you need to justify why an EIS is needed under Hawaii Revised Statutes 343 and Hawaii Administrative Rules 11-200.1, in that there are specific criteria which are triggers for an EIS. So you saying that you don't think there was enough community input, that's not enough for us to approve a resolution. You have to cite specific code, and you know this. So I'm surprised why you don't cite specific code in this. We can't approve this and present this to decision makers because you failed to provide factual citations from code and from law to justify that. So again, just you saying, I don't think the community had input, the city, as Bob said, the city is going to laugh at this and say, thanks, now get out of here. So if you haven't cited HRS 343, specific criteria that trigger an EIS, and you have not put that in this resolution, we pretty much can't vote in favor of it.
Okay,
Chair.
most of the language in that short resolution comes from the American Bar Association and other internet sources, which are all certified things. I did not put the quotations in for each one of them, making it a shorter one. Remember, the Waikiki side, if you're going to just accept what has been proposed in the bridge, you're going to have about 3 fire trucks long of cement right in front of you that will look like an aircraft
You
carrier.
know, I asked you
on
why
your
I'm
side
asking
of
you
the
why you didn't cite code. Don't tell me you went on the
Because we
internet.
did a lot of longer things before. This is just shorter to
Okay,
get
this is
full
not
input.
defensible, so I'm going to vote against it. Over.
Well, I
Chair,
think
if
that
I
you don't
could.
have the full thing.
Hold it, everybody. Greg, I'm going to give you a couple minutes here.
Thank you.
And then I'm going to give Jacob some time. And I'm running way over our allowed
We
time
know.
tonight, but I am going to take the time to finish this.
Okay.
So please make your statement.
Thank you. First of all, I disagree with Board Member Mertz regarding the requirement to put the legal precedents in or cite the chapters. making a request for something like a full EIS to the department that would then be required to review that properly is fine. I think that's an established protocol. I don't think that's necessary to do that, but that's my opinion. I think if we get a legal opinion later, I'll get one from OIP or someone. Regarding what I'd like to state, Laura, correct me if I'm wrong, the Diamond Head Neighborhood Board just approved, was it the exact same resolution? Okay, the one we have on our shared Google Drive or the one you just handed out? Both. Okay, well, there's only one or the other. So which one did they? One of them.
Sorry, I didn't talk to Winston today, but I think he's putting the more
Okay.
recent one.
Okay, one of them that was approving or requesting, I should say, the full EIS was just adopted by the Diamond Head Neighborhood Board. I want to make a quick statement so we can move on. Excuse me, point of order. I agree. Point of order. I'd like to finish speaking because this is very contentious and I think it's very rude of people to interrupt other people. So I have become increasingly aware from participating in numerous meetings and discussions about the proposed bridge as a resident of Waikiki, that the public's input and numerous factual statements included in the draft environmental impact report were not properly considered, and the final recommendation it's extremely important to ensure representatives from the public and concerned groups are allowed to present and speak. The previous resolution adopted by the 2016 Waikiki Neighborhood Board still has merit, and that was for a limited bridge, $5 to $11 million. The site was mentioned as University Ave, but it is outdated. The resolution that Ms. Ruby is requesting to be considered and Professor Manerbi for adoption is for the full environmental impact study, which I also believe is required in this case. A previous Macaulay Mo'ili'ili Neighborhood Board in 2021 is against this monstrosity of a bridge, this 180-foot tower. I'm against it personally. I'm okay with a bridge, but I'm not okay with the planned bridge, as Vice Chair Lewis stated earlier. I think it's fair for all of us to understand what the EIS is going to do. It's going to determine if this monstrosity of a bridge is what we want, or if a regular bridge, which would be maybe an $11 million bridge, would be acceptable. We could have 3 bridges for the $63 million that's being proposed, or 4 bridges. Let's just be reasonable. Look at the draft EA report. You will, if you read it, it is 1,000 pages. I read it. I didn't read every word, but I read as much as I could. It doesn't reflect the summary findings, and the person that was involved in it is no longer here. So I ask everybody to please respect the process. That's what this is requesting, a process, and move on from that so that the powers that will be will assess it properly. That's all we're asking. Thank you.
Thank you. Jacob.
Thank you, Chair Finley. I am strongly in favor of this bridge. It is much needed. We need it for our neighborhood connectivity. There is no safe way to go from just Waikiki over to Macaulay Mo'ili'ili or further up University into Manoa without getting in your car. I challenge anyone here, try using your bike going across the bike lane on Macaulay. It's not safe. I put my life in my hands every single time I try to do it. The sidewalks aren't wide enough. It's not, there's no sustainable infrastructure to link our community with the other communities across the canal. And I think that this bridge is sorely needed to repair that. And the proposal for EIS, I think, is really just more of a delaying tactic. It's more disingenuous NIMBYism that is trying to just stop progress, stop development, because people don't want change. And this is something that we need. Earlier in this meeting, we were talking about reducing traffic and making it safer for pedestrians. You make it safer for pedestrians and you reduce traffic by giving people a reason and a way not to drive their cars everywhere, especially on short distance trips. This would be, it would be a net positive for many people who don't have a car, who don't have who struggle for parking. I would personally one day love to get rid of my cars so that way I don't have to be burdened with the cost of maintaining them and I can just use public transit
bike and walk everywhere. But to get there, we need the infrastructure in place. And this bridge is a long needed, overdue measure, piece of infrastructure that will look good, that will a little bit modernize the look of the city. And I think it will have a net positive impact for both residents on both sides. So now that instead of people driving and crowding our streets, we can mitigate that a little bit by giving them a way to come over via bike, via pedestrian. And I hope this is the start of making Waikiki more pedestrian, cyclist, transit friendly. Thank you.
Thank you. I have two people on WebEx, and I apologize, guys, for running this meeting long, but I want to finish this tonight. So go ahead with the.
Just finally, we
I'm
never
sorry,
said we
you
were.
already had your chance. Please sit down.
I was going to respond to him.
You
We're
have
not
made your
against a
statement.
bridge. A modest bridge is organized. Community input will say a modest bridge is very nice.
Daisy Marai, you have your hand raised?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chair Finley. I just want to tell you that DTS Director Morton mentioned that this Alawai Bridge is also a complete street project. Therefore, on Alawai Boulevard, you're going to have 2 to 3 lanes of traffic only. You're going to have a widened bicycle lane. You're going to have a widened sidewalk with all on concrete. No, according to the Army Corps of Engineers job, they're going to have no trees, no grasses, nothing. So you're going to be walking a hot pavement and a hot walls. But the thing is, it's going to be a complete street, so it may cost more than 63 million. Just to let you know, it's a good thoroughfare to go both sides, but this is actually a wider project. And don't forget, your Kuhio Avenue is going to be less of a traffic jam, more of a traffic jam, because 2 lanes will be used exclusively for the buses. And what happens when you have street closures on Kalakaua? So just be sure to make sure that you know that this is a whole complete street project. It's not just the bridge. It's also going to be affecting Alawai Boulevard and Waikiki. Thank you.
Anson Wu is on mute, just so you know.
Michelle Katchuk, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, you can speak now.
Hi. Thanks. I just wanted to make sure that the chair and the board is aware that this resolution was brought forward at the Macaulay Mo'ili'ili neighborhood board meeting last week and was defeated. So this motion was not adopted by the Macaulay Mo'ili'ili.
Point of clarification, if I could, it was a different resolution that was on the at that meeting.
I don't believe so.
These meetings need to be conducted according to Robert's Rules of Orders. And I'm sorry, Greg, but you just popped up, raised objections. You need, excuse me, you need to get the attention of the chair.
Point of order, Chair. I made a point of
Miss-
clarification for an
This is-
important reason.
Gentlemen,
So that's
enough.
It was an important reason.
This is exactly what I'm talking about.
And I'm
Sir.
asking for a point of order for this because I made a simple point of clarification, which is
point of
Robert's
order.
rules.
I've got a point of order.
We have a
before the
point of
chair.
order. Does the board agree with? going on with this longer than we need to.
Yeah.
So
I think a motion to adjourn would be in order.
I would like to finish this tonight.
I don't think we're going to finish it
Okay,
tonight, but
I have heard comments from everyone. Do I have a call for the question?
call for the question.
Okay, the motion is to approve the resolution as written. Okay, I will call your name and please say yes, no, A, no, or abstain. Okay? Okay, Jillian Anderson. Robert Boyack, sorry. Michelle Brown. Michael Brown, sorry. Sorry. Michael Brown. Okay. Lisa Cabanero. Shotaro? Yes. Oh no. Jomel Dulau. No. Louis. Oh, okay. Melissa. Robert Finley. Catherine. Daniel. Ken. Jeff. Greg. Mark. Howard. No. Chad. And Sarah. There's one yay, 16 abstain, no, and 0 abstain. It is now adopted.
Okay. Based on we have run out of time.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I move to adjourn.
Can I add one statement before we adjourn? I intend to take anything else on the agenda and put it on a future agenda. February is really tight. Probably most of it will be on March. So there is a motion to adjourn. All in favor? Any opposed? Adjourn. Thank you, everybody, for your time and